Welcome back, my little video heads of Video Head Cleaner, where we take a big snort of a movie, leaving ours and hopefully your head spinning. As always, I'm Kyle.
And I'm Tommy.
Today, what we have for you to take a hit of is the movie Drop, a film that premiered in March 2025 at South by Southwest, and that actually fully premieres for you to watch on April 11th, this coming Friday. It hasn't. We caught an advanced screening of it, luckily, thanks to Tommy.
Yes, because I am very important.
He's extremely connected. You should be so lucky, frankly.
Yes.
You may have seen a trailer for this film to date. It is a thriller that we're looking at. What's going on in this movie, Tommy?
Well, let's see. Drop is... I'm trying to think, is it, like, what subgenre of thriller is this? The basic premise is that a woman is being held hostage by way of an airdrop-like app, and the person behind it who is terrorizing her, first with just memes and then with ever more real and salient threats to both herself and her child and her loved one, and also the blind date that she is with. It becomes a kind of cat and mouse game where she tests the boundaries of her virtual captivity in this game and setup that she finds herself in, with potentially very deadly consequences to herself and everyone around her, and again her child. Again, it
really is kind of a subgenre at this point, where like a man with a phone or something is sort of pulling the strings on the back end, and perhaps the other people around him don't know what's going on. Like, I think one of the best examples of it recently, of course, it just came out in Christmas, was Carry On with Taron Egerton, where Jason Bateman plays man with phone pulling strings in background and says, you have to do this, where he's a TSA agent. And the most famous one I think you mentioned when we saw this was Speed.
And now that I think about it, Scream.
Yeah,
Scream. Yet again, it's a film where a menacing male presence is terrorizing a woman over a phone. And it's I guess maybe the Scream genre was whatever we might call this in some ways. Yeah.
It's the manipulating from afar, the striking psychological terror in your heart genre with technology. Now it can go straight into your hearts.
I would say maybe in some ways it's kind of like a gothic horror film. It's a film about captivity by a strange, maybe even alien entity. I don't know. I might be getting a little ahead of myself, but anyway, let's get into the plot and the story.
Sure,
here.
Absolutely.
All right. So the main character.
This movie opens first off giving us almost no context on what's happening. We open on her bloody, beaten face as she's kind of rolling over, and we really have no idea what's happening. We don't know if this is a flash forward to what's going to happen in the movie. We don't know if this is a flashback necessarily. All we see is our, and we don't even know this yet, main character, where she's just in a rough spot, and we see a looming figure come into the room and loom over her, and then he's pointing a gun at her, and so she's clearly not having the best day. We'll see. We'll start from there.
It's definitely her under duress and with imminent threat of violence and death against her and her child. Kind of an ongoing theme and recurring moment in this film, for sure. And that's just how it begins. Again, like Kyle said, with no context whatsoever.
We don't know their relationship even. We know he's pointing a gun at her, and then he seems to be mad at her, of course, and he seems to be about to kill her, but all of a sudden he hands her the gun and is like, no, you do it. Why don't you go ahead and do this? Which it flips it on his head right away, and he then puts the gun straight to his forehead and puts her finger on the trigger and is like, do it, just kill me, which, again, is devoid of all context. We're sitting there thinking, what in God's name is happening right away? This is not within the trailer, but...
Yeah, as we find out soon enough, this character, her name's Violet, is a psychiatrist.
Well, that's where we jump to, because the way that scene ends, mind you, is Violet is, we don't see that she pulls the trigger, but she screams, ah! And then as her finger halfway through the trigger, and then we cut. We cut to her saying, almost in a 1980s rewind sort of way, the line that transitions us is, let's go back a few seconds. And so we're not sure if we're going to jump back and see what's going on here, but turns out no. Yes, we instead see Violet, as you've mentioned. She's a psychiatrist.
Yeah, so she's counseling a patient, and pretty quickly into the film, we discover that she is in particular a specialist in domestic abuse counseling, and it couldn't be any more obvious what her inspiration is. And she basically says that it's because of her past experience with her own very abusive husband and that abusive domestic situation, which then clues us into what that opening scene was about, or shed some light on it, right? It was
It at least heavily hints at it. And she sort of peels back that layer more and more. She's really talking to her patient about stuff and trying to really derive worth from this person who just called herself worthless. She's coaching her through it. She seems to be good at her job, and it does at least heavily hint that she knows how to deal with this. And we'll find out a bit more about that as it goes on. But yes, we do learn around this time her name is Violet. And she's really helping this woman out. And right after this happens, she goes through, she gets up, she's done, and she gets a text from somebody named Henry who says, last chance to back out. We don't know much about this again yet, but as this happens, she is startled by a man knocking on her window, who just scares the shit out of her.
Yeah, someone who appears to be from the electric company, a utility worker here to read her meter. Perhaps a classic setup to something being sabotaged or some plot being hatched. Tell me, Kyle, did he seem suspicious almost immediately? My first thought when this character appeared was, oh, come on, really?
Yeah,
really?
Given the type of movie it is, it's certainly raised an eyebrow at minimum here. But I also want to call out that he does look very similar to the man in the first scene. And I'll just say this right away. There's about 6 male characters in this movie, and 5 of them could be in a lineup, and I might not pick them apart because I don't know if they were allergic to casting blonde men or redheaded men or people of any kind or people that shaved in a different way.
Or at all.
5 of these 6 characters are brown-haired men with brown eyes and full brown beards.
Yeah.
And so at a certain point, they're trying to do a reveal or something, or really they're like, this is this character and that's that or whatever. And God help anybody with face blindness that sees this movie or that thinks all white people look the same, because you're right in this movie. They do actually. So
this film isn't helping.
No.
Yeah, no. Whoever was casting or whoever was giving the ultimate green light, they had a type. They really do. And I believe there is only one cleanly shaved male face in this, and we'll get to that later, and it'll make sense as to why maybe this is an important
or
element.
even one other male in the movie that doesn't have brown hair, and so it's just a wild thing to have happened. But he does. He goes in and he's going to check in the meter in the back, apparently, as we see. And so we start to give a little slow reveals of what's happening, of who Henry might be that texted her, and we also get the hint that Violet does have a child named Toby.
Yes.
And we kind of start off from here with a POV shot that's interesting of a remote control car coming around the house with a little letter in the truck thing we can see that says, "Hi, Mommy," scrawled out in crayon. It ultimately finds Violet and bumps into her shin really kind of hard. She reacted very little with this child ramming her shin with like a top speed with a little Hummer-esque remote control car. That threw me a touch. She just kind of like puts her hands up as, "Oh, you child," or whatever. But I'm like, shit, that would hurt me. Like,
yeah, it's a hint as to her being made of she's made of stern stuff, as we discover later in this film. Yeah, and I'm just gonna hold off for now.
For sure. So she opens the letter though, and she sees Sir Toby is hiding, scrawled in crayon. So she smiles. She kind of stops what she's doing to go play this little hide-and-seek game with her son that clearly has probably done this before with her. And so she walks through the house, peeks in a room or two, and says, "Oh, is Toby here? Is Toby here?" And then after that one, the second one, she turns and looks, And turns out Toby is dog shit at hiding. Toby is clearly just like 3/4 of the way out in the hallway with maybe 1/4 of his body behind the door. But Violet's like, oh, where can Toby be in classic parental fashion?
Yeah, it's cute, and the only problem is that he has a haircut that makes it seem like maybe he's not all that bright. And unfortunately, it's just a haircut that just is so tragic. That no, Toby's just a normal little kid. There's nothing wrong with Toby. You're gonna think there is though, and it's just a haircut. I'm just warning you now. He's just a cute normal kid.
Yeah, this is on Violet too. He's 5. He didn't pick this haircut.
I had to resist a real snarky impulse watching this film, thinking, wait, he's not like. No,
it's just 5. It seems.
It's just a haircut that I don't know how this got through. Anyway,
and so he jumps out. And Toby's like, I got you, Mom, and she's like, oh my God, you got me, Toby. And he stabs her with a sword, and Violet cries, oh, I've been mortally wounded. But as this is happening, her sister enters the house. Violet's sister, Jin, and Toby runs over and says, Auntie Jin, which is really how we're revealed on this, because they're not. Wanted to tip all their cards quite yet on stuff, but Jen looks like a good aunt, if not a snarky bitch of a sister, because the first thing she does upon entering the house is critique Violet's outfit. Again, Violet has a terrible fashion sense, so Toby's haircut makes more sense in the context of this awful dress she's wearing.
It does. That's a good observation. It makes sense in the context, for sure.
And so this is when we first find out that Violet is going on a first date here, and that is who Henry is going to be, and that she's met this person, Henry, on the apps, and Jen is going to do her damnedest to get Violet out of this awful outfit, and it is something presentable for Henry.
And does a fairly successful job. So we do discover that Violet has it in her, or at least in her wardrobe, and with some prompting, can look, quite nice for her blind date with rugged, manly photographer Henry, who enters later. But let's talk about the restaurant where.
For sure. So yeah, Jen does get Violet into a lovely swooping V-neck red dress with titty cleavage out. It's looking a lot better than the first 2 outfits, because she does come out a second time looking like a candy cane, and just laments. In another way of just as the slow exposition we're getting, Violet laments the fact that she only has work clothes, and that she doesn't have date clothes, insinuating she's not been on a date in quite some time, which we learn to be the truth, yes, as it goes on here. And so as she steps out in her snatched red dress, she bids farewell to Toby and Jin, and is fairly nervous about it, seemingly, because if she's not been on a date in a long time, we're also to insinuate she's not left Toby in a long time with somebody, perhaps. And
this is actually an important point, as we're going to discover. She is very much required to be checking her phone, and this will be an important element, as we're about to discover very soon. The restaurant.
Tell me about the restaurant, Tommy.
Let's see. It is named Palette.
She pulls up and is just staring up at it.
P-A-L-A-T-E. Palette.
It's a very tall, very top of building restaurant
with a very, very fussy spelled name. So it's perfect. It's of course meant to connote a certain pretense all its own.
And it's very fancy. Yeah, I mean, if it's the penthouse suite-esque building. I've worked in a building that's had a top floor restaurant before that also considers itself quite swanky. And so she takes the elevator up, and you find that to be very much the case.
Yeah, and it does have a very sweeping view. Again, it is top floor, so heights. It's very much an element of this context in the restaurant that this unfolds in.
Which, by the way, apparently they built an entire restaurant for this. They had chefs running. It was like, I think, a couple 100,000 square feet or something. They had to stop actors at times who were eating 5 steaks when they were like, slow down, because the food was apparently delicious. They really committed to this build, including this tunnel we're going to see that Violet goes down immediately as the entryway to the restaurant. That also sort of has a bit of significance for what's going on here. But they really committed to this, apparently.
And I think to good effect. It's a great visual element. She's passing through this very kind of intimidating tunnel to get from the lobby to the main restaurant area, and it does serve as a great framing device all its own in order to imply that she's now in a very different space, and it's a kind of a feeling and implication at first, and then we discover no, this is actually very true. Something is perhaps going on.
For sure. And as luck would have it, we have still not met Henry or her date yet, because she gets a text from him saying he's running 10 minutes late and to go order herself something fancy at the bar. So she goes over to the hostess, asks if that's okay, and does in fact go to the bar, where she sits down and is apparently nervous enough that the bartender immediately clocks it. I don't know if she's quite shaking like a leaf, but she doesn't seem comfortable, we'll say here.
Yeah, the bartender, attentive, more or less the ideal bartender, especially for a single woman on a blind date.
Oh my God, I forgot though.
Yeah.
Before she even makes it to the bar, she bumps into another brown-haired man with a beard, mind you, and
Yes.
drops her phone. Which,
It's amazing. It's only one, considering how many of these men are in this film. But yeah, there's a guy in this bar who's just his whole thing is just bumping into people.
and given the pretext of this movie, we're perhaps led to become, or to believe that this could be something sinister. Perhaps he's the suspect, this or that, because
We're primed to see it in a menacing way, right? That again, just a single woman on a blind date being accosted by some maybe just douchebag at a bar, or is it? Yeah.
For sure. And so she's not necessarily on a blind date herself, but the first person she talks to, aside from the bartender, as this is happening, as the bartender is getting her drink, somebody steps up to her and says, "Diane? Are you Diane?" And Violet's like, "Oh, honey, no. Thank you. No." And it is an older man, so she's probably like, "Oh, thanks, but definitely not." And he's very talky. She doesn't really want to talk to him, we're getting the impression of, but he is chatty.
Yes, another restaurant goer, also on a blind date. His name's Richard. He's an older man.
He's the one on the blind date, mind you. Yeah.
Yeah,
He's stated to be dating the one lady in Chicago with no social media, so he is yet to see her, and that is why he mistakes our character as Diane here, for instance.
yes, exactly. It again, innocent interaction, or is it? We're already kind of wondering.
And Violet is very quickly somewhat saved from this awkward interaction that keeps continuing. I'm sure you've had an interaction like this before, where you have a little, good talk, but then the person keeps talking to you, and you're like, oh God, I wish you wouldn't. But as luck would have it, or not, again, we'll see. She is. She's a couple seats down from this man, and somebody comes and sits right between them. Another fucking brown-haired, brown-bearded man who happens to end up being the pianist of this restaurant, who somewhat hits on her a little bit. It's light, it's enough. He's like, "Hey, baby, what's your favorite song? I can play it for you because I'm the big pianist of this restaurant." And he has big pianist energy, we'll say.
Yeah, he does have big pianist energy, for sure. I don't know how quickly I can say big pianist, so I'll just be very careful. But yeah, poor Violet. She's just accosted by one obnoxious dude after another. First, someone just bumps into her, and then some awkward older doofus mistaking her for his date, and now the kind of deep in the drink pianist and just the bar crooner kind of saddling up to the bar and interrupting / kind of saving her from the conversation that she was locked in previously, but now she's locked in engagement with yet one more obnoxious guy.
That's not her date, that she's not here for. Yeah,
Will her date ever arrive?
That's absolutely the energy we're getting here. And at this moment, the lady bartender comes back and does kind of try to shoo away the pianist, to be like, shoo, she's on a date now, don't do this, and clearly does not like this person. She later calls him a sleazeball a few seconds later. But before he shoot off, Violet does reveal that perhaps the song that, if any, she would like the pianist to play is Baby Shark. Very, very clearly indicating to the bartender who picks up on it, oh, you have a child, because...
she throws this out, the suggestion, rather dismissively of the drunken pianist, but it's important later.
It'll come back around, yeah, for sure.
Or just charming later. It's
but
a charming
the pianist says he'll
later.
see what he can do when he walks back, martini in hand, because as Tommy mentioned, yes, we're getting the casually drunk vibe, having a great time, just a musical man.
More actively drunk vibe. Yeah.
And around this
Seriously
time,
drunk.
too, yes, the awkward gentleman also sort of is steered away from Violet by the fact that his date arrives. Diane does show up, and Diane does not particularly look happy to see him. I don't know if she also did not see his picture, or if they both just decided it was truly, truly blind here, but Diane did not look pleased.
Which I'm trying to recall if there's any indication as to why, or if it's just you take one look at this guy and you're just going to be displeased with, I don't know. I'm trying to recall. What's your significance?
I don't know. They're about the same age. I mean, if anything, you'd be like, oh, he's an older man type something. But Diane's no spring peach herself here in this instance. And they seem age appropriate for each other. So I don't know if there is a reason. We don't necessarily get a great deal of insight into Diane as the movie goes on.
I remember thinking that she seemed rather puckered-faced and off-put, and it served to highlight that she was not a social media user. And so to me, in retrospect, as we're about to discover, it makes a certain premise more sellable, right? But anyway, we're about to get to this.
Yeah. So at this point, Violet is left alone in the sense she's got her drink. The men have fucked off in one way or another, and she's checking her phone. She is checking her phone, notably again, immediately. She's probably been gone for 10 minutes, but she's texting her sister to ask if Toby's okay, to say, send me a cute picture of Toby to make sure he's alive. And she's also flicking through Henry's presumably Tinder profile here. But while this is happening, it's at this point where Violet gets her first drop of the night, the eponymous drop.
Yeah.
From a application we see at the top of the screen called DigiDrop. Which is stated and lampshaded in the movie at one point to not be airdrop. The legally distinct not airdrop.
No. DigiDrop, this is part of just the setup of the film. And apparently in this world, everyone has this app on their phone, or close enough to everyone. It's like a kind of like a social media-ized airdrop feature. You just have to accept that apparently everyone is fine with this app. I don't know. It's just like such an obvious security nightmare, and I just can't believe that people would just be so willing to. I don't know. This is where I discover I'm different from other people, because I just can't imagine allowing anyone to just drop anything onto my phone.
And to our character's credit, okay. Violet seems very unfamiliar with this as well. We'll find out more about DigiDrop here in a bit.
Yeah.
But she's looking around because she gets a meme dropped to her from an account called Let's Play, kind of talking about how her night might be ruined. And so, of course, she's going to look around and be like, what the fuck? What do you mean? And who's doing this type situation? But she, again, not very, I guess, technically savvy in this sense, doesn't really seem to know the limitations of this, of who could even do this to her. And so she just kind of moves on.
Yeah. She receives ever more specific and menacing and threatening memes. They start out kind of like just edgelord-like at first, but they have ever more specific information about her identity, about what she's doing in that exact moment. It becomes obvious that someone's watching her, someone's observing her covertly.
Absolutely. Somebody's invested in her night here, because one of the memes, she gets a couple while at the bar here. One of them, they're all these popular memes, whatnot. One of them is the car, the straight path is, you're going to have a great night, but hers is just skidding to the right on the, you're going to have a terrible night. And right as she's really trying to be like, oh, what's happening here? Her date Henry arrives. Thank goodness he's alive. He's
Yes.
here. He is here to date. And she greets him, and they are seated at their table pretty quickly, which is a table right by the window of this giant, tall-ass restaurant with a dizzying view, mind you. Henry, we find out here, is a photographer because he's got a big bag with him. He apologizes that he brings it with him. He says, somebody might steal my camera, and that seems reasonable enough. But also, I guess I should know before we move on, Henry shows up looking fine. Like, Violet looks fantastic. This is a very fancy restaurant. Everybody else kind of looks great as well. Most of the men are in suit jackets and whatnot, and Henry looks like he's okay. He's got like a wife beater on underneath, like an unbuttoned, slightly like
he's
button down shirt.
He's wearing a lot of swagger, and a lot of I guess how would I put it, a certain kind of manly charm to counterposed against Violet. Yes, Violet is dressed for a sophisticated dinner and date, and Henry he's windswept. He's very windswept. He's fresh off the tarmac.
He's very charming. Yeah, frankly, he is dressed in charm, if nothing else. He makes a couple of inappropriate jokes, which he says is a defense mechanism because Violet has her wine, of course, and he says, "Oh, you already have a drink?" And she's like, "Oh, yes, I do." And he says, "Well, I had a couple on the way over here in the car too, so we're even now." And
he's charming. He's a man. He is unpolished, rugged. There's a certain typical contrast between far more, well put together Violet. It's perhaps almost stereotypical, a certain kind of male female.
And he has an accent I almost can't place. It was
dynamic.
Maybe Australian. He's very Hemsworth-like in qualities. He's rugged. He's beautiful. It's charming. Yeah.
The accent. I was wondering about that. Whatever his accent, his voice is just pure gravel.
The actor's name is Brandon Sklenar, so it could be somewhat Nordic or something or other here. I almost certainly mispronounced that, by the way. Sklenar. I don't know if that rhymes with splainer or something, or
no.
Sklenar.
I think he's just from Jersey. I think he's just from New Jersey, from the strange, exotic Far East of New Jersey.
Fantastic. I was way off.
I think it's just his voice. Really, it's pure gravel. I don't know what you have to do to get your voice to this quality. If it's just whiskey and unfiltered cigarettes for decades, starting at age 12, or what. I don't know. But yeah, definitely. Yeah, he's got a voice. He is rugged. And he is a man. Oof.
He's dripping sex. It's not a bad thing to have to look at through the movie, all things considered.
But yeah.
We quickly learn that he's a photographer from there. That's specifically why he's got his camera about. He has worked for him for several years. And he kind of chats Violet up about her job as a psychiatrist, too. There's just differences in that. But they frankly don't get very much further into conversation before Violet's phone buzzes again, which is going to happen about 300 more times in this movie. It is the worst date situation you can imagine, with Violet constantly having her phone buzzing. She never once considers putting it on silent, mind you, even when it's just these more benign things. She doesn't consider blocking this person, I suppose. She is ready to pick up her phone every damn chance she gets.
But it's because of her son. This is the first date that she's been on in quite a while. She's very nervous. She's very protective of her child, especially that opening scene, which has ever more context now. That was her child in that scene, and as we discovered, that was her ex-husband. So she's just, everything about this is a very kind of fraught moment for her. But it's if for no other reason than just her child is away, and she's very worried. So she feels compelled to be able to access her phone at all times,
For sure.
which becomes a powerful weakness of hers that she discovers.
And it's an excuse for her as the film goes on to say why she's looking at her phone all the time. But she gets another Digidrop meme in this case. I'm not sure if this is the one of the WWE meme of somebody that I should probably know. I'm not a straight man. I'm sorry.
Was it Undertaker?
That was my guess, but I could name you like 5 of them, and he's one of them.
Yeah.
But he's looking over somebody's shoulder, saying, "Yeah, like your knight," and then it's me in the background, like about to like fuck up her knight type something.
Yeah.
And she gets another one. I forget exactly what order this comes in, but she does get a text from Jen with a cute photo of Toby, and then she gets another Digidrop of famous cardboard sign holding guy saying, "Gonna mess up your night here." And so she at this point shares this with Henry because Henry's like, "What's going on? Why are you checking your phone?" And she passes it across the table and is like, "What is happening here? Like, I'm getting these things. This is odd." And Henry clearly knows a little more about Digidrop than she does because he says, "Oh, so this is Digidrop." And what's going on here is that this can happen with anybody within 50 feet. And so he's looking around the restaurant, and that pretty much means the whole of the actual restaurant itself is within 50 feet. And he even gets up and measures at one point in a cute little I'll measure it, wink, wink way of his, again, charm that's just ripping off him. And goes around to say, yeah, this is about 50 feet. You can't, the lobby is like way out of range. The hostess's stand is out of range. The kitchen's out of range. But it leaves pretty much everybody within eyesight as a potential suspect for this. And however, that still doesn't narrow it down because every time Violet looks around in these cases, pretty much everybody's on their phone in a very modern way and a thing that is absolutely bound to happen in today.
And this moment, I love how it was filmed. At this point, Violet is getting kind of strung out. She's just been beset upon by the presence of one kind of menacing man after another, culminating in the worst of them all, whoever is behind these Digidrops. And Henry in this moment takes it upon himself to scout out the perimeter. It's a very almost primal moment of her man scouting the boundaries of their domain and for her protection.
For sure,
and
it's very
she,
protective.
And she has a look towards him that does seem to connote this. It's very dewy-eyed and just, he's dreamy. After finally finding one decent man in this entire restaurant.
She has been looking for that apparently her whole life and has really failed to find this. I don't know. It's always exactly her type. But I think I forgot to mention in that last meme with Cardboard Guy, it mentions her name. It says Violet at the end of it. And that is where she also discusses with Henry, like, how can you even know this? And Henry's like, okay, let's open up the app, and shows Violet that apparently, again, in this magical app, there is a picture of her and her name right there, which, for not knowing anything about the app, I don't know how that got there, mind you.
Which I guess we can assume that this has something to do with the mysterious utility box inspector, the meter reader at the beginning of the film. I guess she seems
maybe
she
it seems like
surprised.
everyone has it on there, though. It could be more akin to an Apple ID type something. Perhaps in this world, your Apple ID, because most people have a picture and whatever on that.
I was wondering about this. Just how did this app get on her phone? She seems surprised about it, like she doesn't understand how it works, and that's why.
This is one of the biggest stretches of the movie in the sense where you have to suspend a bit of disbelief because it does. Henry's not alarmed at all in this sense, so I don't know if it ties back to anything sinister. Henry's just like, oh, this is just a thing, Violet. I guess clearly you're just dumb or something. And so he shows her there's a grid, a little circle where you can see several people all around them that also have their faces and names. And you see the Let's Play person who has a devil emoji instead of his actual face there. But also at the bottom of the screen, he scrolls past and he shows that just about everybody in the restaurant is on this. So this is not something that is uncommon. It is just something Violet apparently has an enormous blind spot to.
Again, one of these premises you just have to accept in order to continue. And we'll get back to this later.
For sure,
I can make a gripe about this.
She apparently doesn't go in the outside world again and hangs out with a 5-year-old, so it's not shocking. I guess she's not on the cutting edge of technology. We'll say.
True. That's actually a good point. Maybe that does explain why she's a bit unfamiliar with what has been happening in the last 18 to 24 months.
Right.
Sure.
So at this point, we meet probably the best character of the film. His name is Matt. He is a waiter. We are going to meet many times throughout this film.
Yes.
Matt also kind of clocks that they're on a first date, and much to his oversharing delight, Matt decides to say, well, this is actually my first shift. Oh my gosh, this is kismet or something. And Max is an enormous homosexual. Not a giant homosexual, mind you. He is just a very enormously homosexual man character.
I was wondering about this. I didn't know if he was just really high key, or do you think that this is actually a gay male character?
They never state it, I'll say, but this is played by a guy named Jeffrey Self, who is gay in real life, and whose IMDb credits include such things as gay man #1, and being in one of my favorite shows of the last few years, Search Party, where he plays the boyfriend of one of the main characters. So I'm assuming it's not too much of a reach here that this character is.
He was cast for #1.
I know,
wow,
right?
he was the primary gay. Ooh.
So I'm going to go ahead and just assume this homosexual delight of a character is in fact, yes, a gay man. But he info dumps on them immediately, the fact that this is his first shift, which, of course, sets Violet and Henry a little like, oh, wow, this is going to be a night, mind you.
What a fun moment for you.
But great. In the tradition of... I should mention, he is a brown-haired, bearded man in this movie. Like,
once again.
God help us all.
Cheaper by the dozen, really.
And so, again, Violet is beset upon by a man just sharing too much of her with a brown-haired man with a beard, because he shares that his biggest love in life is his improv classes. Yeah. And do you know about Second City, which is a very famous Chicago organization? If you, the listener, are not familiar with this, that is almost a feed system, a farm system for Saturday Night Live. People like Colbert and Steve Carell and Amy Poehler and stuff have come up through this. And so it is a very notable Chicago institution. And that said, their next question to Matt is, oh, do you have like a show there or something? And he sort of gets sad and is like, oh, I'm just in classes. But, but he continues to go on until finally, mercifully, Matt wanders off and is set off to do something else. And Henry and Violet share a moment of literally saying to each other, wow, that was a lot.
And it is. We're really understating it. Matt is a fun character and is some needed comic relief, because the film is getting kind of heavy at this point for sure, and Matt saves the day multiple times just in terms of the mood.
He absolutely does. He's the moment of levity that is going to be bungee jumping in here and there whenever things get a bit too heavy.
Yeah.
And I do think Jeffrey Self nails this character. It's grand fun.
Oh, yeah, definitely. Where do we find ourselves now? Drops have been explained, but they're not slowing down at all. Let's see.
For sure. And we should mention Henry's being extremely sweet to Violet. He does show great interest in her to the point where he knows that she has a son. She has a son, and so he pulls out of his bag a hockey puck. It's insinuated in this scene. Honestly, it's never mentioned again that they've just transplanted, but he seems to say, since you're new to Chicago and you have a son, I want to make sure he likes the Chicago. You would think Blackhawks, but actually it doesn't seem to be a Blackhawks puck, so it is a legally distinct hockey team in Chicago that is not the Blackhawks, mind you. But he gives Violet a hockey puck and says, is that weird? And Violet, to her credit, probably smitten with this beautiful man, is like, this isn't weird at all. It's kind of weird. But
it's a cute gesture.
It is a cute gesture. I've never been given a hockey puck. I guess I can't tell you the exact emotions behind it, but now Violet has a hockey puck in her purse, which could come up later.
Yes.
But during this sharing of with Henry on the Digidrop stuff, and Henry going and searching around the restaurant, and Violet sort of scanning about, Violet does receive another drop, talking about how they see her trying to find them. So again, she is clearly being watched and observed pretty closely.
They go to great lengths to let her know just how tightly observed and really controlled every movement and every gesture she does is. They assert very clearly that she is under total surveillance. And even worse, she's directed to check her security cameras. She has another app on her phone that's the cameras in her house.
Well, first she gets, and this is another magic feature of this magic app, she starts getting texts instead of just drops. Direct text to her from this, and these now say ready and time to get to work, which confounds Violet a little bit, but that is the next thing, absolutely, where she is told to check her security cameras and, frankly, not to tell Henry anymore about this.
Yeah, her ability to communicate is it also being very, very closely monitored. Her attempts to convey any kind of information or to dial out in any way are being just intercepted every time. She isn't clear exactly how she's being monitored, but
which it clearly is. And when Violet opens up her security cameras, because again, I genuinely don't think at this point in the film we've been told she's a survivor of domestic abuse, but this is another giant insinuation. She has about 20 security cameras through the house, and so it both hints at potentially that and the fact that she's very protective over Toby.
Yeah,
because she's got every corner of this house covered.
We're definitely we've picked up on it just again with the opening scene and things as they've unfolded. Her particular worry about being away from her child, her counseling. It's understandable why she would have a very good camera setup, but she does discover that there's a man in her house, a man with a balaclava, face mask and
waving a silenced pistol around.
It's definitely someone ready for assassination and murder. Who, unbeknownst to her sister, who's babysitting her son and her son, is in the house ready to presumably do the bidding of whoever is also menacing her with memes and text messages.
Yeah, Violet's clearly doing well. Her house is pretty big for a single mother in Chicago type situation, so good for her, frankly. Atta girl. Because Jen has no idea at this point, and Toby don't, that there's a man in the house. And Violet's told essentially if she wants to keep it that way and to keep her family safe, she's going to do what the account tells her, not share this with Henry, and go from here. And so this, of course, shakes her a great deal, mind you.
That's a good point. Let's talk about just how wealthy. Yeah, that's actually, now that you say it, this is kind of one of those like sitcoms in the '90s kind of things where it's just they're a poor downtrodden middle class family, but geez, I mean they have like a 5-6 bedroom house with 8 bathrooms apparently, and it's like 8,000 square feet. Just I guess based
just
on
for her and Toby too, mind you. This is not Jen does not live here. She did not invite her to live here. Maybe she should have. We don't know as much about Jen. She seems to be more the fuck up sister. Violet does not care.
They didn't mention that this is the preeminent psychologist in Chicago, I guess. Wow. So there you go.
So Violet's shaken, and at this point is she's told to go to the bathroom, so she gets up and goes, and she immediately is trying to sort of stymie this and nip this in the bud by dialing 911 or such. But then a text comes through immediately being like, hey, don't do that. I can see this. And so at every turn here at the beginning, she's kind of finding out just how closely she's being watched. And it just, she's also looking around suspiciously each time this happens, and we're really sort of, everybody's on their phone. Once again, it's really not giving us a great clue into this. She doesn't have a suspect in mind at this point.
And she can't, she's forced to suspect even her date, Henry, just if no other reason than his familiarity with the app itself.
Certainly, and he wasn't in view or anywhere near her the first time she was getting these drops, and they seemed to at least pause briefly while they were walking to their table or whatnot. And so as she's going to the bathroom, though, she does bump into the same brown-haired, bearded man that we have no context for, mind you. He's just kind of milling about the restaurant in this case. And she did bump into him the first time to the point that now when she bumps into him violently the second time, he says, if this keeps happening, I'm going to have to take this personal, mind you. And so she does get in the bathroom, though, and she's just trying to figure this out. I mean, wouldn't you be shaken at this point? She's received no less than like 12 to 13 fairly directed text messages insinuating that not only is her night going to be ruined, but now she has a very, very firm reason to be shaken with man with gun in her house.
Yeah. In as this is in a lot of ways a gothic horror tale of a young woman captive in a castle or a dungeon by some mysterious male presence. She's testing the limits of her captivity. She's looking for any place in the restaurant where she can't be observed, or either by audio or by video. And so she goes to the bathroom. She's hoping that maybe this is a place. Maybe there aren't cameras or microphones here.
Absolutely. She's in the stall for a bit, kind of trying to catch her breath, and there's three young women at the sinks there. And so she goes up to them and tries to sort of clandestinely ask for help in certain ways. She asks to borrow their eyeliner pencil, I believe, and write on her hand. But again, is immediately chastised and admonished by this, saying like, hey, don't fucking do that. I can see you. And she also completely weirds these girls out, mind you, because she gets the eyeliner pencil and is trying to draw on her hand and immediately breaks the eyeliner pencil, trying to write out words with it, as everyone looks at her very oddly, and it's like, this fucking old lady just broke my eyeliner pencil in her hand. And then she's like, hands it back and is like, here you go.
It's I believe in the bathroom where a certain kind of transition happens. Before this point, whenever text messages through this Digidrop app arrive to her, it cuts to her phone. And so the camera is constantly cutting from her face to the phone, and it's this frantic back and forth editing. At this point, though, we start seeing the text of these messages projected on the wall behind her. It's like a projector behind her, throwing her these menacing text messages out into physical space.
It's very stylistic.
Yeah, it's a figurative device that seems to put her emotional state out there in a way that is more physically real. It's all by the implication of the edit before that, and now it's a very real element just in the world itself. And I had mixed feelings about this when we were watching it. I was wondering, is this just kind of cheesy? Is this almost kind of like laziness or something? Like they didn't know how to mix it up or keep it fresh, and so they're just trying to they resorted to something that seems very blunt, and I don't know, like
it's very cinematic, I guess I'd say.
I've warmed up to it now. Like I feel like it was a way of evoking her inner turmoil, right? In a way that it was very much this had become her world, and so they depicted it by making it her physical world too, right? Just to really drive this point home, I feel. And so it's
sure.
Okay, I've come around to it. It's like I respect the figurative gesture now, I think.
For all the little video heads out there, I'm sure this is a problem that a lot of directors have to tackle in film and media these days, because phones are such a big part of our life, as Violet's seeing, looking around. There's going to be text happening between characters, and you have to choose as a director and filmmaker, how are you going to display this? Because it's not always an interesting shot to be looking just down at a phone type something. And so that, I believe, is where we're led here to. The director was probably like, okay, let's zhuzh this up a little bit. Let's get this up out in a big old cinematic flashy way type something.
Yeah, it just how do you convey the emotional impact of what's happening when it's just her fundamentally reading text messages, but it's clearly more meaningful than that. And so yeah, that's definitely a cinematic conundrum with the information age, in that consuming information does not look very sexy at all. A lot of times,
it would be a boring movie. It's
you hunched over a device, and oh geez, yeah. So
which is still in there a whole lot, mind you. Yeah, they definitely mixed it up a bit here and all of that, and so two things happen in the bathroom scene that kind of wrap this up, because, God, I don't know how far we are in the movie at this point, but she finds a recording device or something. It really doesn't elaborate what it is in the film, but a little black box with a blue light kind of behind the mirror, where it at least insinuates that the audio is being presented here, if not video as well, from away. And then because she's being punished, whatnot, for trying to ask for help from these girls, she's told us to check the security cameras again, and we see the man go through and kind of comically almost pistol whip Jen in the head, sister-wise, and Jen just sprawls out there. And then he picks Toby up and puts him in his room, and I don't think this guy is good at his job because he does not secure the windows. He doesn't do anything with Toby in the room. He puts him in there, he just kind of chucks him in on the bed, and then he just ties the door up with an extension cord. Like he doesn't tie Toby up with the extension cord. He doesn't tie Jen up, even though she's just presumably unconscious and not dead. He just
confines him to his room.
He seems, and this is a running that I think he's bad at his job. I don't know where they found him, mind you.
Yeah,
balaclava man.
It's just why not just get some rope or an extension cord and just tie him up? I don't know. I just didn't secure the windows. Didn't see if there was anything. I mean, again, it's a small child, so okay. I thought that was odd. I'm just like...
He locks himself out of Toby's room. It's like he cannot get into Toby's room quickly. He would have to unwrap a whole extension cord to do this.
If I'm some henchman, I think I would just tie a kid up. I don't know, but that's just...
Maybe I'm old-fashioned. We're old-fashioned,
I know, yeah. So, but anyway, Toby is confined, and
Jen is unconscious.
The
Toby's
sister
confined.
gets clocked. So, and this is Violet. Violet is being punished for not obeying, for her disobedience, and the grand metaphor of her being a captive, abused woman. It's playing out and it's developing, right? And the entire scenario really is a complicated metaphor for the nuances and the particularities of captivity in a domestic abuse environment, and she is at the phase of punishments for disobedience, and so yes,
absolutely. Violet, this has happened now, and of course this shakes her more than ever, but again, she's told not to share any of this with Henry. She's on a date. She's on a first date, and she's already not very good at this. We've established that right away, and now she has to be very not good at this while now having a terrible secret weighing upon her that she cannot share with anybody. And so she comes back from the bathroom, clearly shaken, visibly so, and Henry's like, hey, are you okay? And she has to sort of make up, again, not necessarily a lie because she is nervous about being away from Toby type something, but saying there's a bedtime emergency and that she needed to help him find a stuffed animal, a lammy or something, and plays this off pretty well to start. It gets harder and harder as this goes on. Again, when your phone buzzes 300 times and you're putting your date off quite a lot, it gets difficult.
But once again, it's the effects of domestic abuse, at least, by way of this metaphor. She is unable to communicate with those around her what is happening to her, or she feels it is not safe to do so.
And she's great at doing it. So as another point to that domestic abuse, like if somebody's in that situation for quite some time, which is insinuated as we find out more has been years, she's very good at covering up in this sense and making sure everything's all right. She has an excuse she can pull out when she needs, and she does it well. So, but it is a sort of trend that continues as this movie goes on, that Violet is an awful date. Mind you, she has very big reasons to be, but...
From Henry's perspective, with him being utterly unaware of what's happening, she seems like a complete mess. Just nuts. Just nuts, unfortunately. And it's a lot of the tension. Did we skip over? She's given a job to do.
I think that's it. Honestly, since we saw a early release of this, we cannot go back and rewind this. I believe I've gotten most of this in chronological order. If I didn't, feel free to write whatever hate mail you like. But
there's quite a bit of cat and mouse in her testing where she can be observed and can't be observed, and she's trying to communicate out and dial out, and it's all being thwarted. And ultimately, she discovers what it's all about. Like, why is she being put in this elaborate scenario to begin with?
And I don't think it happens quite yet, at least per my notes on this stuff. What I have next happening is Violet finds on our table the exact same looking black box with a blue light, figuring out, oh, this is also perhaps how I'm being watched so closely. And so she asks Henry, who then asks Blessed King Matt if they can change tables. And Matt, once again, in a lovely scene, is excited for this to happen. He says, oh, let me go handle this for you. And he goes off and handles it and comes back absolutely just delighted with himself and says, I pulled some strings for you. I know some people, and walks them over to another table. But at that moment, when they have Violet thinks she's potentially outsmarted somebody again, she gets a text saying, go back to your original table, which, again, Violet looks like a crazy person here when she immediately has to backtrack this after saying, I don't want to sit at this table. I'm a little afraid of heights because the table they're being taken to is more in the center of the restaurant. And all of a sudden she has to backtrack that and be like, you know what? I love heights. Actually, I'm A-okay with this. Confusing both Matt and Henry, who are like, okay.
Yeah, she's being run ragged by her secret turmoil, and unfortunately she's running everyone else ragged to accommodate and to deal with it, and just as a result of the position she's being put in. But unfortunately, because no one knows her inner turmoil, she just again seems like just a hot mess.
And this crushes Matt. Matt was so excited to succeed on his first night at doing a thing for somebody he thought was going to make them so happy. Yeah. And immediately she snatches that joy from Matt. It's not yours anymore.
and Henry too. He's a real trooper. He's a real gentleman. He is hanging in there, but he's hanging by a thread because.
And critically, as he's hanging by a thread here, Violet has also texted saying in no uncertain terms she has to keep her date there or else her family will be killed. Yeah. And so now there are bigger stakes, even though Violet looks like a psychotic person to keeping her date there. So she really has to try to lie and do a better job of not looking like a crazy person.
We find out that she has a very specific task, or in fact, two that she must perform. The first one, we mentioned that Henry is a photographer. In the course of conversation between Violet and Henry, we discover that he's actually attached to the City of Chicago mayor's office, the longtime photographer of the mayor. And a conversation about especially his opinion of this person, his response is very tight-lipped, very tense. She
does ask if he's a good person, and he does not immediately respond with yes. So yeah.
We get the feeling that something is wrong. Perhaps the mayor is not a great person, or there is some dark cloud over how Henry is answering. There's something going on, and we find out that the mysterious Digidrop menace wants Violet to steal the SD card out of Henry's camera. There's apparently photographs on here that are extremely sensitive or valuable. And in the process of examining the content of the camera, she of course wants to know just why this is so important. Why is she being tortured in this way? We see photographs of documents.
That comes up in a bit because she immediately sort of texts back like, and she doesn't text back often to this person, mind you. But in this case, where she's assigned a task where she doesn't have any idea how she's going to do it, she just texts back, how? I mean, like, excuse me? Like, how do I do this? And so a couple of things happen here in between Violet working towards that goal. Yeah. One of them is the blind date. Diane's had enough. She is done with this man over in the corner. We don't necessarily see why, but she stands up, calls him a terrible person, and is out of there. Yeah. And the second thing is because the hostess, I believe, I think this is it. It could be Matt's boss in some way, but probably because it's Matt's first shift, comes over to double check if the table's okay and to see that Matt didn't screw this up in some way. And we get an interesting bit of information in that regard because she asks if the table's fine, and they say it is. Violet's especially like, yes, it's fine. Please don't make me move tables. I need to be here, essentially, without saying that. And the hostess says, well, I know you specifically reserved this table, Henry, speaking to him, And Henry denies that. He says, I didn't specifically reserve this table. I just reserved a table with a view. And this sparks a little concern in Violet, at least, to think like, oh, if he's reserved this table and there's a bug on this table, then perhaps I'm meant to be here and not for good reason, but fomented by potentially my date.
Yeah, so once again, she's forced to suspect even Henry, because once again, there's an odd coincidence, first with his familiarity with this Digidrop app, and now apparently, did he request this table specifically? And did he not? But there is a bug at the table. So once again, she can't trust anyone. She's once again isolated at a moment when she really does need someone's help.
It's extremely isolating. She has nobody at this point in the movie, because if she suspects Henry, then she truly has nobody. He was the protective force, at least so far. Yeah. Jen's knocked out. Toby's playing with Legos in his room. Again, he's not tied up. He's probably fine. but nobody else in the restaurant necessarily is her friend in this case. And she's got a mystery person really doing the best to screw up her night. So she has a task, though.
It's to get this memory card out of Henry's camera. He apparently has photographed things that someone would like the photographs destroyed, and so Violet must figure out some way to do this.
She has a pretty clever way she executes it, if I'm being honest. I think it was one of the better thoughts of her movie type something. Yeah. She slyly slips off her watch and puts it in her purse. And then she pulls up her blank wrist and goes, oh my gosh, my watch clasp, I've been meaning to get that fixed. I might have dropped it by the hostess stand because that's the last place I know I had it. She complimented it. And I'm going to look around here, Henry, but can you go talk to the hostess and see if anybody's turned it in or if it's up there or something? And so that does get him up and moving. He goes through the magic tunnel and off, so he's fairly removed. But Violet, she honestly gets a bit nosy in this moment because the job was not look at the camera pictures and figure out what's happening. It was just grab the SD card, and I don't think she has reason to assume he'll be gone that long, frankly. This isn't a long conversation to be had with the hostess.
Well, it's movie time.
It's absolutely for our benefit what happens
time
next.
Time dilates at convenient moments, and this is one of those.
So us as the viewer, what we see, and Violet sees also, and intakes here, is first there are just a couple of pictures of the mayor, whatever, but then as she scrolls past a few more, she sees documents, wire transfer things that presumably would have no reason to be photographed unless they were of some sinister or useful nature, mind you.
So it becomes clear that Henry has discovered something quite scandalous, and so scandalous, in fact, that it's worth this elaborate setup that Violet is trapped in.
And it also gives a much bigger reason why he would bring the camera into the restaurant with him, further than it might be stolen, because that seems, sure, cameras are expensive. He specifically says, if this is stolen, I'm out of a job. So, of course, but now we have double reason to see why he
but
might
also
have
just
this here.
The contents of that memory card are very precious and
very sensitive,
and very could draw quite a bit of danger to himself. So, so Henry is distracted with Violet's ruse about her watch. She is examining the content of this card, but realizes Henry is approaching, so she wraps that up.
And in movie time, just in time, she gets it out and puts it back, zips up the bag.
Fumbles just enough to make it tense, but gets the card out just in time.
And so she now has it, and immediately, just about, she gets an instruction, now take it to the bathroom and smash it.
Yeah.
And so she's like, all right, this is probably going to be the thing they need. Let's just do it. And so she makes up another excuse, one of many, to go to the bathroom, even though she's probably spent 2.5 minutes with Henry total at this point. She keeps fucking off to the bathroom or to wherever else or on her phone.
The so-called search for her watch takes her into the women's bathroom.
That's true. That was the last place she was as well. She's like, oh, it must have come off in there then. So she does have a great lie. Again, she's doing very well at this, mind you. And so she ends up popping in the bathroom, and she fairly right away finds a nice heavy thing, puts the SD card on the counter, and starts to just smash the hell out of it to the point where a woman that is about to come into the bathroom opens the door, sees this woman with a very violent expression on her face smashing an SD card on the counter, and just backs out of there. Says, actually, I'll go to the bathroom later.
Yeah, a bit of cathartic relief, I suppose, for Violet. But yeah, she does startle another restaurant.
She's not making friends in the bathroom for sure.
No, she keeps. Yeah, she's always imposing on someone in the bathroom, unfortunately. But yeah, so she destroys
she does
the
it. She flushes it. Yeah, I don't know. Go ahead. I'm sorry.
And does text her mysterious meme dropping menace. Is this it? Is this all? Release my child. But unfortunately, she has a second job, and this is where.
And she's also told she's not in charge here because she might even say it out loud, knowing she's being monitored in the bathroom. She was like, "I did it. Release my kids," and then gets a menacing message back, "You were not in charge." Again, and I believe the big old splatter text on the background type something of.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, we get more of the projected onto the wall effect here.
But as it turns out, it's great that Violet is alone and was a weird-ass psycho that scared off somebody, because the next task is involving open the towel dispenser and get something out of there.
Yeah, we discovered that hidden there is a small vial of poison that Violet is now being tasked with taking and spiking Henry's drink with. It's not just enough to destroy the memory card in his camera. Henry himself has to be offed, and now it is Violet's job to somehow get this poison into him.
And this is where we come into the biggest probably hook of this movie for the trailer as to why I wanted to see this movie, why a lot of people I know wanted to see it, was because you now have the task of killing your date to protect your son and your family, which is the really core sort of pathos of this movie, or really the thing driving it, and something that's a very primal sense of like, pick between two things you love. It's a sort of Sophie's choice. It's not necessarily, I wouldn't go that far in the sense that obviously she's not known this person a great deal. But to date, he seemed like a great guy from everything we've seen, both in what he's said, what he's done, and the fact that he is being saintly, frankly, about how she's acting.
Well, yeah, for sure. So he almost leaves. She convinces him to stay with a passionate kiss. He again, he's a real trooper.
That's true.
He is interested and is willing to endure a lot. Violet must come across as just a total hot mess, just wanting to change tables, losing her watch, getting up, getting down, constantly frantically checking her phone.
And she's not been there long enough to order food at all. They've ordered an appetizer to a point with another little tiny Matt scene of funniness, because the appetizer did come right before she went to the bathroom. But when she gets back, they see Matt boxing up the food and asking, "Do you want a box to go?" And he's like, no, I don't even want this. The coconut calamari, mind you. But yeah, she panics at that point because, again, not only if her date leaves is she going to fail her task, but her family's going to die. Yeah. And so that passionate kiss is a moment of, as he's walking away, she grabs him by the arm and yanks him into that as a sort of last-ditch effort, which thankfully for her works. Honestly, she must be 13 of 10 Henry's type, because that is enough to get, not only enough to get him to stay, but again, through all of the things he goes through in this movie, he puts up with it. So he must have not been late in years, and or Violet is his exact perfect type of like made in a lab for him or something. Yeah. But Henry says, you know what, fine, I'll stay. And so this is back down, and they do at this point decide to order up some food, Violet says. And she's kind of texting back at this point while the menu's in her lap, being just kind of covering it up. Because, again, she looks like a crazy person on her phone all the time. She's trying to look less crazy, at least a little bit, being like, I am on my phone, but maybe you won't see this time. And so she's really trying to figure out how to potentially get out of this or something, but to no avail, at least.
And this we get some flashback content at when she is presented with the dilemma of having to murder someone. We discovered that there was a a cloud of suspicion over her and the death of her ex-husband. At this point, we've seen that he died of suicide, right?
I think that's, oh my god, no, I think that comes later at this point. It's really,
Trying to remember the
this movie
chronology
does
of
really
this.
slowly peel back layers of the onion type stuff.
Yeah.
And so again, we apologize. We did not, we weren't able to watch this twice to necessarily nail this all down type something, but they do have a couple of flashback scenes here or there scattered about.
But we discovered that there was suspicion that she actually shot her ex-husband. Just her fingerprints were on the gun, even though the audience, see that it's because he forced a gun into her hand and loudly, frantically threatened or demanded that she shoot him, and that's why she was holding the gun at one point. But she was suspected of killing her ex-husband, and now she's presented with this cloud once again, with being forced to kill her date, kill Henry.
Right. I think the flashback here is actually the one that reveals that Toby is there. I don't think the opening scene shows Toby, but it does show that Violet no longer has the gun, because I think she pulls the trigger and it doesn't fire. I don't know exactly what happened in the sense of because the husband immediately takes the gun back as if it is loaded and whatnot, but it's not a revolver. This isn't like I took one out of the chamber. It's like a clip type something.
Yeah,
so,
it either misfired or just the safety was on. But she does not fire the gun, it does not fire.
And so we see the husband, sort of pointing at Toby, and once again we're into the theme of a man is threatening her child. One of these various brown-haired foxes threatening her child with his beard, with his gun. It's just a lot in that. And so after that flashback happens, she does kind of trauma dump on Henry some of this, because they do start talking a bit more after ordering food about, she's like, oh, your photographer job, whatever. And he's like, he shifts that away and is like, oh, but what you do is pretty important or big or whatever. Like, you actually help people with their lives type something. And she talks about how she works with domestic abuse survivors. And then obviously his next question is like, oh my gosh, well, like, how did you get into that or something? And this is where it comes up that her husband was an abuser in this case. I think she even in a sort of flowery language before talks about how her ex-husband passed away in the movie. But at this point now, she's sharing a bit more with Henry and about how he was not a great guy. And she doesn't quite, I don't think, talk about the murder scene or whatever happened, whatever we see going on there and have been flashing back to. But we do learn that she was abused. They've been hinting at it all movie. We've all the breadcrumbs we've talked about and stuff.
She was a survivor of domestic abuse. And in many ways, it speaks to how why they bond, like why they do seem to have a connection. Both Henry and Violet, they both have men in their lives who have disappointed them profoundly, and they bond over this and their hope that there's maybe one good person out there. So Violet is now being tasked with killing Henry, and she's got a vial of poison.
And I think at this point, she gets up again. Again, God bless Henry. Like, he has every reason to leave in this case. And Violet gets up to go to the hostess stand, where she's trying to figure out if anybody else requested a specific table besides Henry that night, because she, at this point, also suspects maybe somebody has picked a table to watch her, because she's very much being watched. And again, the little black box probably doesn't have a camera in it. I wouldn't think. It's very tiny. And given that the angles in the bathroom and whatnot that she's found them in and on her table, somebody probably is watching her. And so she's trying to inquire with this, but the hostess has no reason to answer this question. It's like a weird privacy thing that, why would I tell you this? But the hostess does say, like, no, and then walks off to seat another party, which leaves Violet alone with the phone and the computer at the hostess stand. So, as previously mentioned, this area, once you've gone through the tunnel and the hostess stand, you're out of range of the 50 foot of the digi-drop. And she even looks at her phone and sees that person sort of drop off the blip. So she can no longer be dropped in this moment. However, right as she goes to dial 911 on the phone line, it takes all of about 3 or 4 seconds before the line is cut, which It's a wireless phone. I don't know exactly what happened here. Like, I'm kind of just, I'm just gonna let that go again. Like,
Yeah,
it's okay.
the boundaries of where a signal drops and resumes, whatever. Again, some premises you just have to accept. And yeah,
So she moves on to the computer immediately, though. She goes to the domestic survivors abuse website or whatnot, where
yeah,
she is
yeah,
clearly familiar with this and knows that there's live chat available.
the National Domestic Abuse Hotline, National Domestic Abuse Hotline.
So she takes advantage of this live chat to immediately get somebody on the phone and just types help at first, or help me. And so somebody texts back like, what do you need help with? I'm here for you. And she has the message typed out to say like, help me, there are 2 hostages at this address. When she gets text from the person, or the DigiDrop person who is clearly back, and is like, don't do that. I will kill them. I see what you're doing. Just don't send that message. And again, she is beset upon and while trying to press the limits for captivity, fails again to get out of it. She's trying her damnedest, and she should be, but it's just not working for her, and she's not willing to push it further. She really does hover that finger over it, thinking about doing it to see if she could get away with it, outsmart him, and have him live, but she ultimately doesn't.
She even tries to write a note in lipstick on a $20 bill for the pianist who.
I think that's coming up.
Yeah. So
before this happened, she's coming back into the restaurant. Yeah. And she, again, at this point, the really only person she probably has reason to suspect is the man she bumped into, type something. And so she walks past him at the table and decides to say something at this point. She says, hey, I can't help but notice you haven't been seated at a table yet. You're still alone. You're kind of looking at me sometimes. What's going on? And the man rightfully is like, hey, who are you? And why are you talking to me? A woman who has just violently bumped into me twice and is now accusing me of something. And is almost bemusedly entertaining her in the sense where he's like, I'm just waiting on my sister who's stuck at a tarmac out from the airport stuff. And Violet's just kind of, she doesn't press too hard, I suppose, but she is like, it's the only person at this point that she thinks about. And so while that's happening, the man says, like, aren't you on a date? And Violet's like, yeah, what about it? And the guy says, well, your date's looking over here, and it's probably weird that you're just standing here talking to me. Because, again, Violet's been with Henry for about 3 minutes at this point, actually at the table. She's just zipping all over here and stuff. So Violet's like, yeah, you're probably right, and heads back to the table with Henry or whatnot. And so I think at this point, this is when she sort of resets and is trying to think. She's now in it. She's like, I guess I have to murder this guy. I've tried several ways of it. I just failed twice again of breaking this up. And so she thinks, let's do shots. This will be a way to get it in. And further, she says, well, actually, Henry has a great line of when she's like, let's do shots. Henry says, all right, cool. What's your poison? And we, the audience, like, oh, look at, he said because she's
too soon,
because she's got the poison and stuff there. And so Violet says tequila, and insists that she'll order tequila shots at the bar, and that she will pick up the shots. That's where she intends to poison them. But while getting up, she does dump her purse on the floor, which has the watch spill out of it, which now gives Henry reason to be suspicious of Violet, not just Violet reason to be suspicious of Henry. Not as a murderer, mind you, but suspicious in the fact of, like, why would you lie to me?
But just as a total hot mess.
Yeah. You're not only being weird all night, but now I have, like, almost confirmation that you've lied to me, and why would you do this? And so... Yeah. Now everybody's a little suspicious. And again, God bless Henry. He doesn't get up. He doesn't leave. He is committed to this for whatever reason. Again, he must think it's going to be some bomb sex later that night. Like, he is fully ready for this. But so Violet gets to the bar, though, and she orders up some tequila shots. The bartender sees she's very shaken at this point. Again, a great bartender. She's very perceptive. She's very caring about Violet and is sort of asking if things are going okay. And while Violet's mouth says she's okay and that he's great, her face clearly does not say that. And to the bartenders, all she knows about this, that seems to be a red flag, at least. So, but she does just go with the tequila shots. And Violet, while thinking about poisoning them afterwards, gets a text saying that she must poison the tequila shots at the table. And again, very specific that she must be at the table for this. The bug is there. Potentially whoever's watching her is there. And so I guess they really, really, really want to confirm that this is what's happening. Very inconvenient for Violet because good plan, girl, to be there and to do it out of sight of Henry, perhaps, or to not have to make Henry get up or do something again. But her murder is inconvenient. And so, a very inconvenient murder. And so one thing to at least mention is that tequila shots typically taken with salt and or lime. The bartender offers Violet some limes, and Violet, kind of walking off, thinking about how she's going to do her murder, is just kind of waves her off. It's like, no, whatever, no, I don't want limes, like, not a big deal, and says no. But so she's back at the table with 2 shots tequila. Henry is wary at this point, of course, because he just saw the watch thing. The date has gone terrible. They're about to do shots. Henry kind of protested, frankly. He was like, I'm just going to stick with wine. But Violet was like, let's do shots. Like, it was very much like, come on, Henry, let's do this.
Nothing pairs better with red wine, like some tequila shots. Oof, God. Yeah, no, she's just a wild, crazy girl. She's starting with wine. She's throwing back tequila shots after just appearing to just call out random dudes in chairs at bars and moving to other tables and then moving back. It's just, wow, when you really count all this up, it's
a lot.
It is. It's just, wow, just, yeah. Poor Violet. Just, it's, yeah.
But now we're here. Now we're the big penis energy guy. Violet detects wafting through the air a lovely piano rendition of Baby Shark.
A truly just lush, elegant, and heartfelt piano rendition. And Violet hears it and feels it immediately, and it really tugs at her heartstrings. You know, it evokes memories of her son, and just kind of snaps her out of the prison, this prison of fear that she is in. And really,
it sparks an idea for her.
It's kind of a turning point in the film. Just this gesture, this gesture of decency by a man that she had written off. You know, it's just like, okay, it kind of snaps her out of her sleepwalking into her doom. And yes, she has a plan at this point. Go ahead.
Oh, well, yeah, sure. So this is what Tommy was mentioning earlier, in the sense of she sees an opportunity because you tipped the pianist. In fact, that man earlier, while sleazily, drunkenly leaning over the bar, her was like, be sure to tip. And so Violet pulls out a 20 and in her lap uses lipstick to write on there, hostages at her address, whatever that is. And gives it to Matt, the waiter, who says, oh, that's so nice. Lovely, perfect, beautiful flower Matt is tasked with going and taking this tip over to the pianist. And Violet is excited because she thinks he's going to hand it directly to him. But much to her chagrin, it is tucked directly into the big glass fishbowl that you may be familiar with any piano bar of the pile of money and that's just put there for tips.
Yeah.
And so it doesn't quite work out the way she imagines, but luckily, it happens almost immediately thereafter.
It's got to cook for a bit because the pianist, of course, needs to go back to the bar.
Yes. So
he can't be without a drink for too long.
His drink is empty, and he sort of looks in the tip jar and starts scrounging around. And of course, seeing a 20 right on top is like, boom, that'll pay for my next drink type stuff. And so he grabs some bills out, and Violet's not being subtle about watching this guy, mind you. Also, if she is being watched by somebody, she is full on turned around in her chair this entire time, staring at Piano Man, trying to, basically hoping with her eyes what's going on. Because she's, again, not looking at Henry, not talking to Henry. And so she follows this man not only the whole time that she's hoping it comes out, but then afterwards, and then he walks to the bar, and she does see him unfold the $20 bill. And she sees him sort of get an odd look on his face, and then open his phone up and make a call. And so she hopes, yes, I did it. This happens. But that phone call lasts all of about 6 to 8 seconds. It's really not long at all. And then we see next, he does get his drink, and the pianist looks a little rattled, takes it to the piano, and then just chugs his martini. He downs that immediately in a, cinematic gesture of, he needs this drink. He's not okay, perhaps.
Yeah, he appears startled by whatever text message he received, and also whatever was written on the 20. But this also brings up a certain realization or a bit of insight that Violet has had. She has figured out that there might not be cameras on her at the bar. She's suspicious of the reason why she has to add the poison to the shot at her table specifically. And once again, as she watches what transpires at the bar, she then concludes she that plus what happens next, she's able to make a certain critical insight. But what happens next is pretty shocking. The pianist, he downs his drink, he goes back to playing piano, but something's not right. He kind of seizes up. He kind of looks like he's ill or just extremely drunk or both. He tries to get on his feet and staggers. He lurches forward and kind of has to grip onto the piano to stay upright, and then just...
And Violet's texted right before this saying, you shouldn't have done that also. And so we get, you shouldn't have done that, followed by this. The pianist immediately looking ill, keeling over, and then falling down to the point that Henry leaves the table, which... hooray! Violet didn't even have to do anything this time to get Henry to leave the table. He's now going over to take care of the pianist. But it does evoke that movie, I don't think you've seen it, you said, Carry On from this Christmas, where at one point Taron Egerton is a TSA agent trying to bypass his villain with a phone, pulling his little puppet strings. He does alert a cop to something that's happening. And as the cop's walking away, he gets a text in that same movie being like, you shouldn't have done that, and then the cop collapses because the villain in that movie has killed the person he's told. And this is the exact same situation where it's basically, you got this person killed, and I believe he texts her also to say that, to be like, you did this. Now it's not just you that will suffer, it's this guy, essentially.
Yeah. You disobeyed me, and now this person is suffering for your disobedience. But the pianist, he just keels over. Everyone in the restaurant is looking over or is rushing towards him. But he gets back up on his feet. He seems rattled for sure. Violet definitely seems rattled. And he just kind of ultimately bolts for the elevator. Like he wants to just get out of there.
It's an odd moment because for sure it's like, I'm fine. And he does just go to the elevator to kind of just leave. He doesn't wait for medical attention type something. There is an ambulance we see briefly after rushing here, but Violet gets a text saying he's going to be dead before he hits the lobby. Yeah. And true to form, he is. It is a moment of him being down, and Henry comes back at this point because if the guy's walking off, he doesn't need help anymore, and Henry's like, that was weird, right? And Violet's like, ha, 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 weird. Like, it'd be weird if I knew anything about that, or caused that, frankly, right? Like, did a fucky wucky, like, oopsie, got a man killed there, So,
but we get a glimpse of what this poison is about too, and so it's also just, it shows what the stakes are with what she's being tasked with doing to Henry. We don't actually see the pianist die, though. We do find out later that in fact he didn't make it.
He's
to ground
super
floor.
dead.
No, he died in the elevator. It's poison. In fact.
Violet actually did not poison the tequila while Henry's up, though. She thought about it, I believe, fairly intently, but then Henry comes back, and she's missed her moment. So she makes another moment. She says, oh, I forgot, can you go get some limes at the bar? Yes. And Henry goes to the bar and asks the bartender, hey, can we get a couple of limes for our tequila shots? And the bartender says, oh, did she change her mind? Which gives Henry a second big pause and reason to be like, why is she lying to me, or why is she being weird about this? Because clearly she had no reason to do this. Like, what would be the reason behind this? And so it gives
She's
him.
lying about losing her watch, and now she's lying about limes.
She's putting the line lime. She absolutely is a.
Who is this woman? Anyway, yeah.
But they return, and Henry, again being the absolute saint that he is, Violet says, "What should we toast to?" And Henry says, "Hope," because they've talked about, Henry clearly being an idealist and potentially going to stop some corruption, Violet getting out of domestic abuse type stuff. And so it just, I bless Henry. He's just great, frankly.
He really is. He's a swell guy, and he's just trying to go with the flow on this with still no clue as just the total insanity around him. Just yeah. But he is, his backstory kind of predisposes him to this in a lot of ways. He's someone who's looking for a shred of hope, and so he's willing to hang in there for it. Like he is,
and some of the stuff I wasn't able really to place in my timeline when recounting this with some of the just conversations they had back and forth. But as you're saying that, Violet does ask at one point around this time, why did you pick me? Like, of all the people on all the apps here, why'd you pick me? And Henry does profess that he thought Violet was very real, mind you, that everybody else is trying to present themselves as something they're not, or just, the best version of themselves. But he thought she was a bit of hope there, and perhaps a hope to have a family and a life, too, because Violet's like, I'm a single mom. Also, why would you pick me? And Henry's like, that doesn't bother me. I want something good. I want the good things in life. I want to be a good person, a good father. And so, I don't know exactly where this happens, but it's critical to the next bit, because whenever they toast to hope, they're going to do the tequila shots now. Violet has actually poisoned his tequila shot while he's up. And honestly, she doesn't really take... they're both in the middle of the table. She's almost gambling like Princess Bride style, like which one he would pick. Because if he picked the other one, she would have had to be like, wait, no, but he does pick the right one, I guess. Good coin flip, girl. And whenever it goes into a little slow motion as the tequila shot's getting to Henry's lips, and Violet is clearly thinking about it. And then at the last moment, she decides not to kill him because he's a really good guy. And so she shoves the red wine he has off in his lap and being like, oh, I'm such a klutz. And so Henry puts the tequila shot down and remains unmurdered. Thankfully for him, I suppose.
Yes. He doesn't spill the shot, too, which is just amazing. Like, that shot is intact as the MacGuffin that it is, which is just awesome. but he's got red wine all over him, so he excuses himself to clean up.
And into the magic bathroom portal where time may dilate, or where people just disappear to, both him and her. And so Violet's left alone again. And at this point, I think she's pretty confident about the guy that she keeps bumping into, the one she accused, about who it would be. And she gets up. She's about to go confront this man at another table because she sees him still alone at his table. And she's thinking, your story doesn't line up. A woman never came through here to talk to you. And but as she's getting up to do so, she does see a woman sit down, presumably his sister. And that just, that kind of quells her. She's fine with that. And at the same moment, right after that, the bartender comes over, again, very perceptive, very caring about Violet and how this date's going to date. And she comes over and is like, hey, girl, I think I've seen this before. I think I know what's happening. Like, are you scared of your date? Do you need out of here? I will help you, type something. And Violet, again, because of her mission, is like, no, I'm fine. And her face doesn't really say that when her mouth does. But she does get a bit of information from the bartender after quelling that, and says, actually, she gets two things, mind you, from the bartender. They're extremely critical and really move this movie into the third act. She asks one thing. She says, do you know those people over there, talking about the man she's been accusing and then the sister? And she says, no, I don't really know the man, but the sister's in here all the time. But it's weird because she usually requests another table. And she points at the table, which is where Mr. Blind Date is sitting at.
Yes.
And the second critical bit of information she gives is that I can see why the Blind Date would have left him, because that man's been staring at you all night. And this makes it click for Violet. All of a sudden, she now sees that table that she's pointing at is perfectly in view of her own, that if the man has been staring at her all night, that would be exactly what somebody would have been doing with this, to be driving this, to be keeping an eye on her, and to do all that. And she sees that the man she has been accusing, his cover story's fine. His alibi's great. And frankly, it's still a little bit of a leap of logic, whatever, but she's got enough at this point. And Henry still being in the bathroom, she goes over to confront this man.
Yeah, yeah. She engages in conversation with him. He's trying to keep his awkward kind of doofus act up, but does address her by name, which is a fatal slip, as Violet realizes that she never actually introduced herself to him. And this, of course, now that his ruse is blown, he reveals himself to be the secret villain this entire time.
Absolutely. That's the last piece of the puzzle for her. And she was trying to offer him a tequila shot, the tequila shot, mind you, at that point. But in the doofus way, he played it off like, oh, one drink's enough for me. I couldn't possibly, whatever. And says Violet at that time. And so, yes, that's when she really sits down and is like, okay, what are you doing? Why are you doing this to me? Whatnot. And he kind of unfolds his napkin in a cute little villain way. It's like, oh, I've been caught. Now I'm going to monologue at you type situation.
We get a villainous exposition as to the brilliance of this plan, its intricacies, its layers and depth, and just the sheer complexity and grandeur of it. We discover that this person, his name's Richard, is in fact a henchman of the mayor. He is in pursuit of Henry, since Henry has discovered things that he should not have. And the masked henchman in Violet's house is working for Richard, and the two of them are doing the mayor's bidding and silencing Henry. And Violet, unfortunately, is their pawn in all of this. And in particular with the cloud of suspicion surrounding her ex-husband, and with her being a psychiatrist who prescribes the drug that is part of this vial of poison, it's a perfect scheme to frame Violet for Henry's murder, and with this cloud of suspicion, just take all attention away from the mayor.
Yeah, taking the heat off of this, because he does bring up that Henry's an informant, or Violet says informant. He says rat as a more interesting way. And it should be noted at this point that this man, Richard, is the only one we mentioned that is not an archetype that looks exactly like Violet's ex-husband. And frankly, I think the more I think about it, maybe that's what they were going for, frankly.
Wow, damn, now that you say it, you're right.
Because he's the one person she wouldn't have suspected, and that isn't quite like the other men in her life, or the men in the experiences that are happening around her type situation.
Wow.
So something I thought was...
Wow, you just unlocked it, didn't you? That explains that.
It's comical.
They're all kind of like, they're like ghosts of her ex-husband, and that's why they all kind of look like him. Wow, yeah.
And men that she can't trust, but I mean, she sort of did trust this man just because he was very disarming with, again, how doofy he was, how, oh, shucks, I'm on a blind date type situation.
But he is the only, cleanly shaved male character in the film.
But he is the villain, actually.
In the fun way they kind of set it up. There's a certain tradition of queer coding villains by way of making them look more like women. And in this one subtle way, they kind of do that in this film, right? He's the one non-bearded male character, and in fact, he is the primary villain. I might be reading too much into this.
I honestly think it kind of came to me right then, because I did have that rolling over in my head, like, why do these people all look the same type something, even up into our beautiful King Matt, but it makes sense, frankly. I don't know if that's what the director's going for, but if he was, then absolutely he nailed it in that sense. That
seems like a very compelling explanation of it,
Yeah, and so he's still got control of Violet, Richard here, and so he does tell Violet to take one of the tequila shots. It's the unpoisoned one. In a sense, she does. But the man also has sort of been bragging about his dessert showing up and just talking about how he's going to monologue further with this whole dessert situation. Yes. But, and yes, as Tommy mentioned here, he's going to frame her in the sense of it's not that, it's a little flimsy to me in the sense of especially what happened, because it doesn't seem, whenever we... I think at this point we get the last flashback of her husband and how he actually died, and he definitely shot himself like straight up through the chin and the whatever there. And the only really thing that he mentions that like casts aspersion on Violet is that her fingerprints were on the gun. Which, yes, we saw that in the opening scene, but it clearly looks like a suicide, and so it's odd that he's framing her as this like Black Widow assassin that is definitely going to take all the heat off of him type something. It's another like a little bit of a stretch, whatever, but
yeah, I don't know if this film had the strongest writing, and this is one of the ways that one of the reasons why I wonder, because it's such a complicated setup for why this suspicion would work. And yeah, like you point out, it seems a little flimsy. It seems a little thin, and it's not like it couldn't be plausible, but yeah, they don't do anything to set this up in the film at all. And it's like it's kind of a big thing that's kind of complicated, and it's just there's just no groundwork laid for it. Not really. I don't know.
It could have been a lot. Yeah, he could have died in a different way that didn't quite implicate like suicide so much as to cast further aspersion on Violet, or we could have perhaps seen a news story or something like just, from the past or leading up to things being like woman under suspicion of murdering husband. But they take such time and care in unpeeling these layers that they almost did themselves a disservice by not showing us something that would have...
It's like the film needed 10 more minutes at the beginning where they just have all that. Like all that world building.
And maybe they did. Maybe it got cut in editing because then we would have learned that she moved to Chicago because she was assumed to be a murderous Black Widow.
Or
because we mentioned that they barely touch on that for a little bit.
Yeah, escape the suspicion. Yeah.
And it is a lean, 90-ish minutes, maybe 80-something movie. So I don't know. I think it could have used at least another scene or so about that for sure. Because to the viewer here, it seems a little flimsy.
One of those uncommon instances where you remark, this could have been longer, actually. Like, maybe it could have been.
And so he continues monologuing to a point. He does talk about how they deleted all the photos off of the server, the mayor's server, and the loose end here was the SD card. And so that's why he needed Violet to do that. He brags about he's playing chess. He's at least 2 steps ahead of Violet, which is kind of a funny number. I thought he was going to say, I'm 9 steps ahead, but he chose 2. Something. And
I'm 2 steps ahead while you're playing Yahtzee. He's such a smug bastard, but he's about to get some Yahtzee, some serious Yahtzee, because unbeknownst to him, while he's just waxing insane and villainous, Violet, as we discover, still has...
Well, Henry shows back up at this point. And so we'll get to that. I know exactly what you're going to say in that regard. But Henry shows back up, and once again, Violet is at another person's table talking to a strange man. So Henry's just left being like, what the fuck, Violet? Like, are you serious?
That is right. Like, what is the count on this? Like, so, like, she's just calling out some random dude, and now she's at another guy's table calling him out.
And she's talked to most people in the restaurant that are not Henry. She's with the hostess, the bartender, these various patrons, mind you.
Wow. Jeez. Just the Henry cam, Henry cam on this, the Henry POV, just like womp womp, like once again.
And so she has to go into spinning this mode again, and so does Richard. He's like, we're old friends from the bar, whatever. We're on dates together. We bonded or stuff. And Violet's being very sweet and consoling me that Diane left, that Diane called me a big bitch or whatever happened on the way out. Like, I forget exactly what happened. But he, having seen and being our villain here, saw that Violet poisoned the shot earlier and offers Henry the shot. And I don't know why Henry would take the shot. Again, a strange man just like sort of commanding him to, but... for whatever reason, he does. Through slick manipulation or whatnot, he gets Henry to take the shot. And we as the viewer are very tense about this because it's the poison shot that we've seen. And so Henry takes it, and Violet says, hey, can I have 1 more minute with him? Like, I promise I'll explain everything once I'm back over there. And Henry, obviously not having had his lines crossed yet, is like, what's one more minute, I guess? And so goes back to the table alone without a date again.
He's got some sunk cost fallacy going on, perhaps, but he's a trooper.
And for a penny, for a pound. And so Henry goes back to the window table, and the villain calls the assassin at the house, Mr. Baklava, to say, like, a balaclava. Baklava's a pastry. I'm so sorry.
No, it's Mr. Baklava now. Yeah, that's
frankly,
his name.
he's been alone for a while with a knocked out woman and a child that, again, is probably playing Lego, so he could be having baklavas. I don't know.
He's eating something. Yeah.
He's definitely raiding Violet's fridge at this point. Feet up, I'm sure. But Richard calls him and is like, hey, he took the shot or the poison type something. This will potentially be over soon. Which, again, I don't really know why he did, because he hasn't seen Henry keel over. He's just like giving this person information to a point. But he starts to, as we said, he's got a dessert now, his panna cotta, and he's eating it while gloating and sort of waiting for Henry to die. He's like, I've won. I'm giving you the I've won villain speech to Violet here. Yeah. And Violet doesn't really seem that broken up about it or shaken, and we come to find out why.
She seems very unhurried. She's having an emotional flashback, and she's just kind of feeling her emotional self unhurried as she recalls the various makeup dates that her abusive ex-husband would take her on, and in particular, ending frequently with a panna cotta dessert that this villainous Richard is now gloating over. But we find out why Violet is not all that in a hurry. What we thought was her spiking Henry's shot with the poison, it turns out to be a ruse.
She still got it.
Yeah, she has it with her.
Or not now, but she did.
And in the midst of Richard's gloating and Henry showing up to distract, she manages to dose the panna cotta with the poison, unbeknownst to Richard, who has just been chomping into it this entire time.
And Violet almost can't help herself from this because, frankly, again, we saw the poison work real quickly on Big Penis. And she can't help herself to the point that because she was taunted earlier by saying she was playing Yahtzee, she sort of divulges this information too quickly and is like, Yahtzee, bitch. Yeah. And the man looks down at his panna cotta and realizes what's happened. And so he's definitely not dead at this moment. And we find out he has a gun tucked in his pocket. And so he yells out, bitch, and then pulls out said gun to kill Violet as he now,
Yeah, so the mask is violently torn off. All bets are off. He whips out a gun and he is now just in full on demon mode.
Because he's not long for this world. He might as well take her out with him or whoever else in his thing. So
and Violet has crossed him. He has been her abusive captor this entire time, and she has whipped around and punched her abuser square in the face. And he is reeling and furious at being played by his captive and victim. And is now on the rampage. He's whipping his gun out. He is firing. He is attacking people. He's making a rampage towards Violet.
Just a big old scene. And so he does try to shoot Violet because they're sitting across the table from each other. It's almost assured he can't miss, but at the last second, Henry, somehow, from halfway across the restaurant, has made it over here, probably to ask, hey, it's been a minute, where the fuck are you, Violet? Are you going to be back anytime soon? Like, I thought we were on a date. But as this is happening, and he's about to tap Violet on the shoulder and be like, I'm going to head out, actually, Richard pulls out the gun, and so he pulls Violet to the side or sort of shoves her out of the way and gets himself shot in this case.
It interposes himself between the bullet and Violet, takes that shot for her. He's down. Violet is safe for just a moment, but Richard is once again closing in.
And he's about to shoot her again. He's got her dead to rights again. Yeah. But one of the other heroes of this film, Miss Female Bartender, who was going to save her from her date earlier, comes up and hits him in the wrist with a platter of some kind or something, like knocking it out. And so
Kara, the bartender.
Kara.
We would be remiss if we did not name.
I honestly don't know if her name is said
character.
the entire film. I love that she has a name for her, but that's spectacular for Kara.
I'm trying to remember if her name is actually. Yeah,
it could be
it's
on a
not.
name tag, maybe. That's probably the one place we would have heard it, but like nobody addresses this woman by name. She's the bartender. She's
Unfortunately, Matt, the waiter, pulls a lot of focus from the other staff.
Absolutely does.
For sure.
He's the key staff member in that regard. Who we later find, just to jump even slightly ahead, hiding under a table during this chaos. Matt King has discovered his self-preservation instinct and is immediately hides under the table.
but in the process of crossing Richard's path, buys Violet a little bit more time. Kara takes a swing at Richard with I believe like a wine, like an ice bucket, or it was I forget what she had in her hand, but it was heavy and really. He gets a good hit in on Richard, but unfortunately Richard is quite the assailant. Grabs her and just stabs her right in the
just
back.
Flings her into something and then stabs her in the back with a knife. And
she really gets it. Unfortunately, is not dead. She's definitely down for the count though. So all the allies that Violet has made over the course of this film. They contribute something to her survival.
And at this point, he again he's going to die any moment. He's defeated all the allies Violet had, like you've said, and he's got the gun back and he's standing over Violet. He makes the phone call to say to the assassin, Mr. Pastryman, wearing a mask, that go ahead and kill the family because she's not done her task. I'm going to die. He doesn't necessarily say that, but he's like, just kill him. And so... he takes his time. This is kind of a theme in this movie, too, between the two villains that have guns. They really take their time shooting somebody. They want a monologue. They want a vamp a bit here.
Yeah.
But this is where Violet, it comes all the way back around. She sees that one of the windows has been shot that's right behind him because of this chaos. And then Violet finds the hockey puck in her purse again. And she... in a fun little movie moment, hucks the hockey puck at the guy who kind of dodges it, and she hits the window, which cracks a bit more, and the guy goes, you missed, and she goes, no, I didn't, and then, in a twist of physics, I genuinely would need some of you to confirm, write in if you know this or not, but the window bursts open, and even though the tower didn't seem that tall, a massive air pressure just sucks him out the window.
Yeah, if we could get any physicists or engineers or just whoever can confirm whether or not this would happen, I gotta say this makes me very nervous about rooftop restaurants now. I didn't think that this was a possibility.
This can happen.
And if it is, then hell no, absolutely not.
Or especially the window tables. Oh no!
Nope.
We find out Violet's fear of the window table is perfectly justified in this moment.
Yeah, no, she wasn't crazy at all, because if this is a thing, then oh, good Lord. But yeah, no, she the window gets shot. There's a hole in it, and then the hockey puck is what finally bursts it open. Richard gets sucked out in some grand divine justice, gets his drop, and he does. Lands and splats.
Lands on the pallet sign too, the restaurant sign, which explodes gloriously.
Yes.
It's a satisfying death, if nothing else. And Michael Bay was a producer. This might be the one explosion in the movie, so he probably had a hand in it. I was shocked to see his name there, because it doesn't really have a lot of Michael Bay fingerprints, but he got a glorious death scene and an explosion. So it's good for him.
Yeah, it's a really, really calm, restrained film. By Michael Bay standards.
By Michael Bay standard, nary a transformer to be seen.
There were no missiles at all. Which, hey, no one trying to blow up an asteroid or anything. So there you go.
And so, but this also sucks Violet out, and this is another big trailer scene where we see Violet sort of being sucked out towards a window where she's hanging on for dear life. she manages to grab hold of a jacket, maybe her jacket, I honestly couldn't tell you, but it is hanging on by a thread and is sort of tearing as she's putting her whole body weight on it and is about to fall down to her doom. In fact, it completely tears, but at the last moment, Blessed Henry, saint of all saints, reaches down and grabs her, which I don't even know what he's grabbing onto. I don't know that I would have grabbed a falling, like, 200-pound anything that's, like, already down there, because I also would have been sucked out the window. Maybe that speaks to my upper body strength or something. But in classic Hollywood fashion, he just one fist grabs and has both the jacket and Violet and then pulls her up, really with no effort. There's no scrabbling, no second person to sort of anchor Henry or something.
This is where we discover that Violet maybe weighs 20 pounds. That she might have bird bones and they're hollow and they don't weigh anything, because I mean, Henry's a strapping guy, but it's just, again, if we could have someone call and confirm, when's the last time that you just hoisted an adult woman one-handed, like one-armed up
with a gunshot wound? Henry has been fully shot in the torso at this point.
Let me know if is that plausible?
It seems like he might have some sore muscles from his gunshot wound too.
Exactly. Just if someone could shed some light on this.
And immediately that's the next thing to worry about, because as soon as Violet's upstairs at the restaurant, she's taking care of Henry's grievous gunshot wound and is like, keep pressure on this.
So like Violet, to her credit, she is mindful. She tends to Henry. She finds Kara, tends to him, tends to her. Kara. Oh my God, this is so pathetic. She just feebly raises her hand in a "I'm not dead" kind of gesture.
Hey, when you get a moment, you can also come over here.
I'm not dead yet. Please help.
And this is when Matt pops out from under the table at some point too, and another fun moment of levity. He's great at all these heavy moments, just popping out and being Matt.
But just shout out to bartender Kara, because she really,
she's a real one for sure.
She really gets
at
it.
every turn.
But
she
survives. Survives. So yeah.
So we've been doing this for a while now. So what happens next is Henry kind of dying, but immediately sort of understands what might need to happen next in the situation, because he presumably heard Richard call and be like, hey, kill the family. And so Violet, because without a lot of context, I say that because Violet immediately starts saying things without her own context, being like, keys, where are your keys? And Henry's probably thinking like, I'm dying, but my keys, like, you want to leave? Okay, great. You've left me all night probably, so why not leave me again if we're really being honest with what a normal person might think in this case. But he gets it. He's like, oh, you have to go race home. And Violet gives him she keeps her phone, but I think she hands Henry his phone and be like, call for help. I have to go do a thing now.
Yeah, she is high speed driving towards her house in Henry's car, while also with her cell phone still. She hasn't not been on her cell phone even once this entire time, and still is monitoring the security cameras in her house.
Right, and she's trying to call Jen. Yeah. She starts off in an underground parking garage where Henry's car is, and eventually does get a hold of Jen just in the nick of time, in movie time, to say, like, Ducky's behind you! He's going to shoot you in the head, watch out! And so Jen ducks, and does not get shot in the head.
I'm going to wait to talk about how campy this film is when we're done talking about the plot, but we're almost there. Oh, boy. Yeah. Okay,
and so Jen does duck, I don't know exactly what sort of scene this is aping. In fact, I do know what this is. This is very Jurassic Park-esque, where there's only really like a table between Jen, or like an island at this point in the kitchen between Jen and the gunman, and the gunman's sort of circling around and is right about to get her whenever, just like the raptor and the kids, whenever Toby pops out and surprises the gunman and distracts him for a second.
That is a really good way of describing this, because they're engaging him like he's a beast, like he's some kind of wild animal.
And so, as he's startled by Toby, she picks up a glass pitcher or something of some kind and just bashes him across the head. Does not go for the gun, does not really try to hit him again, mind you. Tries to just take off with Toby, run down the hall. And it doesn't work out very well for them because, again, maybe I should have done those first two things, Jen, because the assailant immediately recovers from this and gets them as they're about to leave through perhaps the front door, it seems. picks up Jin with very little effort and just flings her about. We learn that this man also has incredible upper body strength throughout these next scenes or two. But, in fact, he throws her into a mirror. He like shatters a bench or something, and then flings her right up into a mirror and shatters the hell out of that too.
Both they're doing CrossFit or something because they're not bulky, but ooh, they got like lizard muscle. Like they're densely. They have some dense strength right there because
it's very Michael Myers, which again, this is a Blumhouse film. They even show Michael Myers at the beginning and the sort of imprint of thing, and it evoked that for me quite a bit.
There's some Michael Myers strength happening for sure. Or I don't know. I myself have never thrown an adult woman around. So
you're missing out.
Clearly, I don't know. Maybe it's easy. Maybe I have more strength than I think. I have never done this. So I don't know. But yeah.
But in a fashion again of this movie, the gunman doesn't necessarily care or check Jin's status or really try to put her on the ground. Even though he has a gun, again, this is part of why I mentioned the people with guns in this movies are not firing them very quickly. He does walk past her, and she stabs him in the thigh with a chunk of mirror that she shattered with her body as she was flung like a rag doll into it. Yeah. And she takes Toby up to the room real quick and barricades the door. And at that point, they're in there, and the man's trying to get in. It's very, what is it? The here's Johnny type situation.
Exactly.
He's trying to get through the door, and Violet's still racing home. Violet's driving like a maniac.
Jin ultimately takes a shot in the shoulder, trying to protect Toby.
Right, he does get in. They've blocked it with the cabinet. He shoots through the door and really overpowers it and just gets through. Jin tells Toby to hide at this point, which it made me nervous because, as we established, Toby is dog shit at hiding. Like, I figure if the gunman breaks in and is like, Toby, hide, he's going to be like 75% out from behind the curtain or whatever, and the gunman's just going to be like, oh, that's Toby there as such. But she tells him to hide under the bed. And the sort of, he does shoot Jen in the shoulder and is down. But he doesn't bother to check if Toby is under the bed. He just shoots through the bed, the very top of the mattress, several times, and then is like, "That's probably good enough."
Just in a dramatic flourish. It's not an effective move, but it's very dramatic. Just pap shoots the bed.
Yeah, and so we, as the viewer, don't know if Toby's dead. In this sense, he doesn't check. Why should we care? He doesn't, apparently. So, But at this point, the guy's coming downstairs, and Violet's home. Now it's time for the confrontation of this. And again, this man just flings Violet through the air. He is...
Just one arm picking her off the ground and throwing her, and Violet's been through the ringer.
And it evokes, of course, the massive underlying theme of domestic abuse. Violet is really taking it here again. She's taking a beating.
It was emotional and mental before, and now it's now outright physical.
And so if there's any reason that she's not being shot, it is to keep with the movie's theme, frankly, because this guy should have shot everyone in the house several times at this point if he's a competent assassin, but it's fine. It's fine.
But they are relishing in the domestic abuse. They're drawing it out. The abuse is the point, and this violent confrontation plays out like that too.
Absolutely. And to sort of cap off the underlying theme and the flashbacks and whatnot, at one point Violet's down, and she's very much down in the exact same way the opening scene has happened, with the man in the mask standing over her instead of her husband. And he does take off his mask at this point to reveal that he is the meter reading guy. But I swear to God, this did not read to me as the meter guy, because it's another brown-haired bearded man that I was not sure who this was.
It took some discussion after the movie ended for us to realize, wait a second, this is the meter reader.
Because they paused the scene enough for you to be like, this is a big reveal, you should know who this is, but I really didn't.
Oh my God, it's you.
We haven't seen.
I can't believe this.
This is the first 3 minutes of the movie and the last 3 minutes, I guess, that we've seen this character at all in it with an actual face.
And so it was kind of it was kind of an awkward moment. I was a little. Like just the look on Violet's face just was like, but I didn't know who he was, and I was taken out of the film for just that brief moment. Just
Your view may vary, or mileage may vary there or something, but for sure I did not know who this person was, and the impact did not hit for the shot for me. But it's. While this is happening, we get another call back to the first few minutes in the movie because the gun has gone down at some point because the guy is just beating the shit out of Violet, like we mentioned. And so the gun has been out of play, but we see the remote control car come up, and instead of a terrible scrawled crayon note about "come find me, I'm awful at hide and seek," it is the pistol. And Violet grabs it, shoots the meter man, and then is done. The day is saved.
Saves the day, and it's a wonderful contrast to the beginning of the film where Violet, for the sake of her child, was doing nothing. She didn't want to escalate the situation. She didn't want to prolong it. She didn't want anything crazy to happen, and so it was totally reasonable for her to conclude that she needed to do nothing for the sake of her child. And even when her ex-husband had a gun pointed at her child, she couldn't snap out of that. She was locked into the mode that she had to be still and do nothing for the sake of her child. And at the end of the film, it is her own son giving her permission to take a violent act to protect her and him and protect the family.
Absolutely.
It is Toby I suppose there are any number of ways to think about this. It's Toby giving his blessing in this moment where Violet is the final girl. Like she takes up the phallus in the way that the final girl analysis often begins. And in this case, it is Toby who is, I guess, giving her the figurative phallus in a way. Like I don't know if I well, but
I get it. I get what you're saying. It's
like
just
she is
a 5-year-old handing off the phallus to his mom is not exactly
well, but but because of the particularities of this film, in many ways, that is the license that he is.
You're right,
giving her. You know,
and she at some point talks about how Toby has seen things he shouldn't have to see, and she absolutely hesitates in the first part of the film. We see with the actual firing of the gun type stuff. And in this case, she doesn't, and Toby absolutely sees this, but does give his blessing in this sense to save his mom, frankly, as well, because in the first few scenes, he's a baby. He can do nothing to save his mom, but he does save his mom from abuse and beatings here as well, or at least participates in saving and enabling her to defend herself.
Yeah, and in many ways, it's also something of the culmination of his story arc, if you can imagine a moment of helplessness.
This
where
awful little mushroom haircut kid having a story arc.
He's stuck behind a baby wall as his mother is being abused. You know, you can imagine that's a traumatic way to begin your life as a child, is with this feeling of helplessness as your mother is being abused by your father. And this concludes his arc where he empowers himself.
Absolutely.
Too. So it's
a great bookend in this regard. We have a nice little epilogue wrap-up scene in the hospital here in a moment. But frankly, if the film had ended here or whatever, it would be understandable. It would do a disservice to Henry, which is really what the epilogue scene is about, to sort of give him any sort of closure at all. But for this family's arc, for Violet and for Henry, or not for Henry, for Toby, this is definitely sort of the bookend of it all.
Yeah. And there's a funny moment in the final scene, too, in the hospital. Violet gets yet another mysterious digidrop with a menacing message in it, but it's just her sister.
It's just fucking with her, like,
just giving her the business yet again.
Just being a stinker because it's got the same emoji icon, like face profile, and it's named Let's Play Again, whereas it was named Let's Play in the original stuff. And it happens as this scene comes to the hospital where Henry's in the hospital bed. He's fine, and he's watching a story about the Chicago mayor and several people being arrested. The exact line Henry mumbles to himself is, "Gotcha, dickhead," and in classic straight guy fashion of Henry here. But we then see Violet come in with milkshakes, burgers and fries, and he kind of it's earlier whenever he's shot and she's sort of getting away. He says, like, I knew something was going on. And so he did sort of have a benefit of the doubt for Violet in some sort of way. And it's shown here that they're still connected, that they want to still see each other, that they've been through something obviously traumatic together and are still a good match or whatnot. And they discuss, after getting this airdrop, first of all, it's very panicking to Violet. Jen is a full-on psychopath for doing this. We saw that she's ribbing her sister earlier, but this seems a little further than that. Like, this is just bringing up the T in PTSD again.
Too soon.
And she says that. Jen is like, too soon. Where's the audience? We're like, yes, Jen. Like, what are you talking about? Like, it's literally been less than 24 hours, we assume here, because you're both in the hospital, like, still. Bad Jen. Bad Jen. Like, this is why she's gonna cut you out, Jen. This is why you don't get to live in the big house, frankly. You wish you could live in the big house, but you're a bitch like this. Like,
yeah. It's good that she's a therapist, so she can deal with all the therapy that you make her need. Yeah, exactly.
And so it wraps up with Henry and Violet talking about how they'd love to have a very boring next date, and how just wonderful that would be. And they have a nice moment sitting there, drinking milkshakes, eating. Or I guess before we end, we get confirmation Henry is in fact a strawberry girl because Violet presents him 2 milkshakes and says, first of all, I got both flavors, she says. Chocolate and strawberry, which is very erasure of vanilla. Like, I don't know where vanilla went in this equation, but when she said 2, I was like, okay, it's going to be chocolate and vanilla or something or whatever, but chocolate or strawberry, both. And she says, are you a chocolate girl or a strawberry girl? And Henry was like, I'm a strawberry girl, which is just...
So we discovered that Violet really is disturbed, and that Henry is adorable. Yeah, because he is a strawberry girl. He very much is.
And that's pretty much it. I think it wraps up everything. I can't think of a single thing that happens after that. It ends in the hospital with them, and sort of insinuating it's going to be a good moving forward situation for them, and that they bonded great over this.
It's I'm trying to think, like 1 out of 10 stars. Where would I put this film?
I did look because this premiered. We saw this like April 8th, I want to say, and it premiered at South by Southwest. I think literally a month before that, and March 8th type something, or in that weekend area. And so there are 567 reviews on IMDb, and they rank it at a 6.1 of 10. I want to say.
Yeah.
Which I think is fair.
I tend to rate too many films as a 7. And I need to be more comfortable just rating some things as a 5. When it's an okay film, it's just okay. This, I would say it's a 6. I thought it was okay. I thought it was well acted. I thought the cinematography was fine. I thought it was an entertaining film. There are some things where there's some premises you just have to accept for this film, namely this Digidrop app. It's just again, I might be. Maybe I'm just too paranoid and sensitive about this, but it's just, what a security nightmare. And I just have a lot of trouble believing that so many people, or really anyone, would just
have this, like by default, at least, where you don't know your name and your pictures on it, for sure.
And where you can just drop memes on you like that. Again, I don't know. Like, am I portraying my age with this? I don't know. I couldn't imagine having something like this, but what you kids out there, like, let us know. Would you walk around with airdrop just on, where someone could just drop a meme on your phone?
So this is,
let us know.
I guess, a good time to call out that there is actual inspiration for this movie. One of the producers of this film, Cameron Fuller, I believe, was out to dinner with his girlfriend, Olivia Swee. If you know who that is, I believe she participated in Smosh TV stuff. But they had a real life experience being out at dinner, and somebody just kept airdropping them Shrek memes, and they literally did not find out who did this to them or what was happening the whole night. And then they brought it back to the 2 writers and essentially were like, we have a premise. Please, we need you to do this.
Yeah.
They said this is a great premise for a movie. They approached the writers Chris Roach and Gillian Jacobs and said, here's the threadbare idea, go. And so this movie was based on a true story, sort of, in a much different fashion,
Sure.
of course.
Yeah. Okay. So I guess it could happen. Okay. Sure.
Yeah, this has happened in real life.
I'm too curmudgeon-y. It's me. So, okay.
Yeah, you can't just leave airdrop unprotected in that case, though.
Yeah, for this reason, you never know. Geez, some nut job's going to start bedeviling you with memes.
But I think you're right in the sense of like there was just bits of weak writing here and there or something, or just something that didn't quite elevate it. Like in the trailer, or from the trailer to the movie, I expected more kind of mystery vibes in the sense of Violet perhaps trying to figure out who's who in a sense of like perhaps gathering a little bit of information here on one character, a little bit of information here. But all she has is one character she sort of accuses, and then ultimately within about a span of 10 seconds puts together who it is, and then goes and confronts him. There wasn't a lot of like build up and or satisfaction for me in that.
I agree. Some more intricacy about the setup, like we get a taste of it, but just again, maybe that was the film I was expecting too, where it was going to be more, like there would be clues and she'd be deducing things more, and
there were no clues,
and there kind of is, but it's not the main focus of the film. Like it's half this and then half her backstory and the emotional introspection and whatnot, which I don't necessarily disagree with. It makes it a different film, and I think perhaps for the best, really. I thought that was a good element, right? The setup that she finds herself trapped in it very much tracks the contours and dynamics of captivity and domestic abuse.
And being trapped for sure in something like that. Because obviously we've brought up several times, but domestic abuse is the main theme. And not necessarily even violent abuse, because there's a lot of mental manipulation here. And even her psychiatry patient at the beginning wasn't necessarily insinuated to be in a domestic abuse relationship, but she was called worthless.
Well, not a physical abuse.
Sorry. I don't mean to...
clearly an emotional abuse setup.
Mental as well as physical abuse is a better way to say that, because when she's talking about how she's not worthless, how she took this, and how the mental abuse Violet's taking is having to be trapped in this situation where awful things are happening to her without being able to share it with anybody.
Yeah,
she has Henry for a moment, and then she doesn't.
Yeah,
and she has no lifeline.
The people who she could reach out to, she can't trust, or she can't trust herself, or she's just outright afraid of punishment and reprisal by her abuser and captor. Just as that plays out domestically, it played out in this cat and mouse game that she became enmeshed in. I like that setup, and I like how it corresponded to and interacted with that metaphor. I thought that was good. I guess I would have liked to seen that plus something more of Violet's interaction with the setup, again, like what we're talking about, like deduction and clues and something like that. I don't know. Maybe, are we asking too much? Or are we asking for the film to be something it's not? But anyway.
I suppose. And I do want to get to at least some of the quotes from the director then, because I'm always interested, frankly, in what they have to say about their own film. And one of those things is, it was probably really hard to keep track of things and to sort of... because they were trying to very tightly manage what's going on in the restaurant. I did mention, as he says, that they built... I apologize. I think I talked about a giant restaurant earlier. I said 200,000 square feet. He said, we built a 12,000 square foot restaurant. We had 100 extras. We had to train an entire staff type something. But to go ahead in this quote thing, he's talking, he said, also we had to manage continuity. Who's getting up? Who's getting what table's being seated? What table's done? What course are they on? Every single table had to be mapped out. And there were giant graphs and charts and all kinds of crazy shit that were done. So they're very tightly thinking about this. And he says on a rewatch that things would probably be seen that weren't seen. And I don't disbelieve him. Frankly, I bet there's more to pick up there.
I just to hear the description of that setup, I I just I didn't feel it. And I guess I guess that's the best way I could put it. I didn't feel like this film was as intricate as that setup suggests that it would be. I mean, I actually built a 12,000 square foot restaurant.
I don't know if you achieved that, I guess. It's the goal and whatever they were probably trying to do. But we didn't get a lot of really any shots off of Violet. Like if there was anybody, even just tracking shots of like following other people like Kara around or Matt or this or that to other tables where we could hear just snippets of conversation perhaps, where we could have followed somebody like that to get... is it them? Is it that table? Is it this table? But we didn't get that really. Like I was kind of let down exactly by that.
That just maybe missed opportunities. You know, just these moments that would have elevated it in a way that ultimately would have been qualitative. Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah. So there is that, and then there's just one thing that I have to touch on. This is a campy film. For better and for worse. For better and for worse, it is a very campy film. Villains give big dramatic speeches about how awesome their plans are. You have bad guys circling circling around tables trying to get to their prey. You have people just being casually lifted up and thrown about like they weigh nothing. This film had a lot of old-fashioned campy touches in it, which and
the whole Henry Violet date situation is pure camp because again, this is a ridiculous situation. Like
it's hijinks. It is. It's hijinks and for better and for worse, it's a very campy film.
She's the worst date ever. She's constantly on her phone. When she's not on her phone, she's trauma dumping on you. If you look up for a moment, she's gone. She's on another table or something. She comes back to your table. She dumps wine on you. She's clearly lying to you all the time. She's talking to other men. She's just
she's just berating other men in the restaurant.
Henry's got to be down pretty bad, frankly, for him to put up with a lot of this. Like,
is she drunk or is she just crazy or what? No, she's deeply traumatized and is being gaslit and abused and tortured into a murder scheme conspiracy. It's just, poor Henry has no idea how deep the rabbit hole goes. But hero of the film, I would definitely say. Well, I mean, okay, hero of the film is Violet, but her hero definitely Henry. Maybe Henry is the hero, whereas Violet is definitely the protagonist and ultimate heroine.
For sure. And I mean, like, they do a good job, as we mentioned several times, potentially casting aspersions on Henry, as there were, whether justified or not, on all of these brown-haired, bearded men that, as we mentioned, are archetypes, because correctly laid upon Meter Man, for instance, incorrectly laid upon guy that she keeps bumping into and harassing all night, incorrectly on Henry. Matt really never had had much...
The pianist who she thinks is a total jerk.
The pianist, absolutely.
And kind of is, but is ultimately a good guy.
Kind of, laid upon him in ways that are a bit correct there. But,
so she's haunted by the specter and apparition of her ex, and with great difficulty, the specter is dispelled, but it takes some great struggle, for sure. But yeah, I overall liked the film. It was entertaining. It had some depth to it, so there was some layers, So I'm
going to call out real quick just a few things about the cast and the director in this sense. I will say first, the director, since this is a podcast done by the gays, he is a gay director. His name is Christopher Landon. This is his 11th director credit. He's largely done to date a lot of horror. He's done both a bit of directing on the Paranormal Activity series, and he wrote several of them. He did Happy Death Day, both of those movies. He also does have just a lot of writer's credits, and the one that jumped out at me is probably my favorite movie of not only the year, but the last few years, is he wrote Hard Eyes, which I think is spectacular.
Okay,
I'm sure we'll circle back to that, but I was both stunned to find that he did that and
Okay.
was delighted,
Yeah.
frankly.
Yeah, just we should maybe have an episode on Hard Eyes. Great film. You haven't seen
Absolutely.
it.
I would recommend you see that, yeah, wholeheartedly. Wholeheartedly, Italy.
We were very, very pleasantly surprised at how good that film was. So yeah,
When you talk about camp, too, that film is
yeah.
absolute camp, and it's wonderful.
Yeah, absolutely.
Cast stuff real quick. The main character actress, she's really not done a lot of like main character something. Like she's done a lot of TV film, but the biggest one that you may know her as, Megan Fahey, is that she was recently on White Lotus season 2 as Daphne, as the blonde counterpart to her tall, hunky, brown-haired husband, who was the couple that was with Aubrey Plaza and her Asian boyfriends throughout that one.
Yeah.
And she was delightfully ditzy and lovely in that, and did an incredible job, frankly. So this was a very different, more downtrodden, sullen character for sure.
Yeah.
But that was great. The Henry guy, this giant hunk of a man, one of his biggest claims to date, 'cause he has the exact same number of acting credits, 30, as Megan, but he played Burt Reynolds in a miniseries on TV, The Offer, if you've seen that. And then I guess I just should call out the actress that did play Jen. Her real name is Violet. So I stayed very clear not to refer to Jen by her actress's name in this, because that would have thrown me very much so. So, and her probably biggest thing was she played Jessie Quick on CW's The Flash in some of those later seasons. I know I fell off on that. I don't know if you guys did, but then
Richard, the villain, played by Reed Diamond. You very likely have seen him on TV. He's got an extensive TV filmography, TVography, as it were. I recognize some of these shows that he's been on, but yeah, he's been around. He's a long-going TV actor.
And then I already called out Jeffrey Self playing Matt. He's fantastic.
Yes,
he's great in Search Party. He is just a delight, especially in the last season of that. But dovetailing all the way back around to that and to a potential segment we're doing here, and the gayest part of the film, the straightest part of the film, Matt absolutely stands out to me as the gayest part of the film. I know that's obvious and perhaps unfair. And again, he's never openly stated to be gay, but honey, honey, like, I mean.
Also, good runners up. Drunkenly shambling about a restaurant, calling out random men. That's a good contender.
Yes. Being very loose with the man you're talking to that night. We're on a date.
Sticking with a hot mess because God damn it, you just need some, we've like for sure.
And Christopher Lano as the director again. So
so there's some queer presence.
I wouldn't call it a gay movie, or I mean, frankly, this would not fall under queer cinema, mind you. But the fact is, it has a few little gays thrown in here and there, and then critical parts of it. So,
the straightest part of the film, I would say, would be Henry's voice. Because again, it's like rubbing two rocks together.
I was gonna pick Henry's outfit. Yeah.
Also, yeah. So there you go. There, just his entire vibe. Just his entire vibe. You just watch the film, you'll know exactly what I mean.
He's extremely masculine, and we don't say this ever to be mean. We love the straights. We love straights. We came from straights. That's how gays come into the world. Frankly, we need you.
But they're definitely, he was definitely given some directorial cues about be a man. Like be this kind of man with your gravelly voice and your demeanor and whatnot. Not in a bad way, not in a toxic way. I think.
No, he was extremely untoxic masculinity. He was patient while being a giant man.
Almost to a fault. He's like, is this guy for real? Like, it's like almost unbelievable. But just barely not over the edge. Like you can believe that he's a good guy without being like a
he's not smarmy or
Marty
anything,
Sue or like unbelievable. Like it's And then Violet, Megan Megan Fahey.
Mm-hmm.
I thought she did a good job. I liked her. I liked her in White Lotus. That character, you know, it's carried with some depth, but in this film, she was the main character, the main protagonist, and so she was very much carrying the film, and I thought she did a fine job.
She did a great job, yeah. And honestly, that's one of the things I'd call out about the cast is that they didn't have a giant tentpole actor really to like
no, not
pull
exactly.
you in.
Yeah,
like none of these people are very, very notable. Like when I went through IMDb, it's like, oh, I guess I might know you from like one or two things on your big credits, and I don't say that to be disparaging in any way. It's just like a lot of films, you know, have a Johnny Depp or
they have a name.
Yeah,
they have a name attached to it.
A Timothy Chalamet for Dune or a Jason Momoa for things. It's just like none of these people were gonna. If you just read their names off, you were gonna be like, oh my god, I have to go see that Brandon's Sklenar movie, like whatever.
Which
again, no shade to Brandon. He did great.
Give it time, but yeah. So, all right. And I just want to make one more shout out. There was a moment in the film where Violet, the main character, is reaching out for help through the National Domestic Violence Hotline. So I just want to make a shout out for that. It is a valuable resource if you need it. Their number is 1-800-799-7233. Again, just shout out to a good organization, and it was featured in the film.
For sure. No, I think that's a great call out. They highlighted the fact that if you need help, it's there. It's got immediate access, and it's a very good resource in that way, the way things like the Trevor Project or certain other things are for immediate chat or for reaching out. And if you need help, I know it can be hard to do it, but it's do it if you need to, and if it's going to protect you and make you safe. And so... that's about all we have for this. I will say I don't think we've picked out our next movie quite yet. We will have, like we mentioned last time, contact info up. We will probably read out viewer letters at some point when we have, or listeners, mind you, when we have listeners. So if you write in, you might be the first, and you'll probably have a great chance of getting your letter on the air. So we will try to have a list sort of upcoming for that so that you can know what to write in about, because otherwise it would be general and vague. So you can share your own opinions on stuff. Because to date, we have done 2 fairly new movies. We will not always be doing that. And so when we have some older films on deck, of course, feel free to share your opinions, and we'll read them out if we have the space, the time, and if they're good letters.
Any questions, any comments, anything that we got wrong, if you disagree with our analysis, if you can answer the question about rooftop restaurants, just please let us know.
This will haunt us.
Exactly.
But as always, thank you for listening. We appreciate each and every listen because, it's just good stuff. We do this for fun and whatnot. We'll see if it turns into anything, frankly. And we appreciate you being along for the ride and whatever this turns into.
Exactly. So. This has been Video Head Cleaner. My name is Tommy.
I'm Kyle.
And catch us next time.
Goodbye.